Chapter 4:16. Indigo Azure City was surrounded by the sea on 3 sides, and it just so happened that the wind was blowing today. The waves hit the reefs on the shore and made the sound of rolling waves. The people who lived on the shore of Indigo Azure City were used to this sound. When he fell asleep with this sound, he slept even more soundly. In a luxuriously decorated mansion in the center of Indigo Azure City, a middle-aged man with a sinister look in his eyes said enthusiastically, "Second young master, do you like my chess pieces carved from jade-textured ebony and jade-textured white sandalwood? If it's to your liking, I'll have someone send it to you when second young master returns." The youth that was addressed as second young master had a skinny body and was wearing the Creation Master Association standard robe. He was using his finger to count the rows of books on the bookshelf. Hearing the middle-aged man's words, he waved his hand without turning his head. "I never place jade-textured black and white chess pieces in my study. Even if I do, I only place completely jade-textured black and white chess pieces. Speaking of completely jade-textured black and white chess pieces, I have 2 pots. Third uncle, if you like it, I'll have someone bring you a pot so you can broaden your horizons." The words of the youth, who was wearing a Creation Master's robe and addressed as second young master, caused the middle-aged man's enthusiastic smile to freeze. It was extremely awkward. Just as he was about to speak, the second young master, who was wearing a Creation Master robe, turned around and spoke. "Third uncle, your 3 bloodlines have never dared to touch the coastal resources because you're afraid of being targeted by the Chiu and Wei families. At the same time, you're also afraid that the 1st, 2nd, and 4th bloodlines will secretly cause trouble. I, Zheng Kaiyuan, am standing up for third uncle in the main house, but you won't say a word about how much of the coastal resources are going to be given to me? You're only taking a pot of jade-textured black and white chess pieces as a sign of sincerity. Aren't you looking down on me, Zheng Kaiyuan?" The sinister-eyed middle-aged man looked even more embarrassed as he hurriedly said, "Since second young master is willing to stand up for the 3rd bloodline in the main family, how can our 3rd bloodline be lacking in resources for second young master? I wonder what second young master thinks about our 3rd lineage giving 30% of the profits from the offshore coastal resources to second young master." The youth who was addressed as second young master waved his hand and summoned a small marten with a black and white tail. As soon as the sable with 1 black and 1 white tail was summoned, it saw the pot of black and white chess pieces made of jade-textured ebony and jade-textured white sandalwood. It immediately became lively and looked at its master with its watery eyes. The second young master looked at his contracted little marten with a gentle look on his face. "Go, Sun Luo. Eat more." With its master's permission, the little marten with 1 black and 1 white tail scurried into the pot containing the black and white chess pieces. He gnawed on the chess pieces in the pot with a ka-ka-ka sound. The young man who was addressed as second young master looked up and gently stroked a strand of sable fur off his sleeve. He looked up at the sinister-looking middle-aged man and said, "Third uncle, my young myriad mink is hungry. If this little thing wants to eat, I can't control it. I believe third uncle won't lower himself to the same level as this little thing." The sinister-looking middle-aged man hurriedly smiled apologetically. "It is this pot of chess pieces fortune that second young master's Fei likes to eat." The young man who was addressed as second young master seemed to have completely forgotten that he was the one who had asked the young myriad mink to eat more. The second young master seemed to be a little sleepy. He rubbed his temples and yawned. "I want 50%. Without giving the sinister-looking middle-aged man a chance, the young man who was addressed as second young master spoke again. "The Radiance Creation Master Youth Tournament is starting next year. I'm tight on money. 50%. If third uncle isn't willing, the 1st, 2nd, and 4th lineages should be very willing." Upon hearing that, the sinister-looking middle-aged man's expression froze and he quickly replied, "Second young master, why don't we have a good talk again?" The young man who was addressed as second young master chuckled and said, "Little Sun Luo, let's go. Little Senro, let's go. We shouldn't eat these chess pieces." The sinister-looking middle-aged man's face immediately turned pale, and he spoke in a panic. "Second young master, 50% it is." The pitiful little Martin, who was obviously not full yet, yawned again after being picked up by the young man who was addressed as second young master. "I'm sleepy. Third uncle, why don't you come to my residence tomorrow and bring your most sincere regards?" After the young man who was addressed as second young master left, the sinister-looking middle-aged man's face immediately turned gloomy. He sat on the chair for a long time without saying a word. His fists clenched tighter and tighter. At that moment, the sinister-looking middle-aged man's expression suddenly became astonished. Then, it was shock and worry. He immediately picked up his cell phone and dialed a number. The phone rang twice before it was picked up. When the sinister-looking middle-aged man heard the normal voice on the other end of the phone that seemed to have a hint of joy, the worry in his heart dissipated a lot. But immediately after, anger rushed up, and he forcefully suppressed his emotions. "Where's Eldrinho?" The sinister-looking youth who received the call replied indifferently. "I arranged for Eldrinho to do some small things." "Father, how did you persuade second young master to stand on our third lineage's side?" Upon hearing this, the sinister-looking middle-aged man could no longer suppress his monstrous anger. He immediately erupted and scolded. "Small things? Eldrinho and my allegiance oath is broken, and you say that it's a small thing? If you die outside, do I have to pretend that nothing happened?" The sinister-looking middle-aged man's anger poured out crazily over the phone. It made the sinister-looking youth on the other end of the phone fall into a state of astonishment. But immediately after, an unconcealable horror appeared on the sinister-looking youth's face. The hand holding the cell phone trembled a little in this horror. Eldrinho had sworn to his father with a willpower rune to become his father's servant. But now, his father said that Eldrinho's allegiance oath was broken. Didn't this mean that Eldrinho was already dead? Eldrinho was a pinnacle king-class expert, and his contracted dark-eyed scorpion tiger was a Diamond X/Fantasy 4 Fae. How could someone with such strength die without a sound? Eldrinho had just gone to the listening heron chamber of commerce, a place where an ant was holding on with an empty shell, to kill that ant that had been holding on. How could he die? Before the sinister-looking youth could make more guesses, he heard his father's angry voice on the other end of the phone. "Hurry up and get back to Indigo Azure City. How did my third lineage produce a useless thing like you?" As he spoke, the sinister-looking middle-aged man felt like his lungs were about to explode. What was the reason that caused him to lose a peak king-level warrior for no apparent reason? After hanging up the phone, the sinister middle-aged man smashed his fist on the table in front of him. A loud bang was heard. At this moment, an expert who was even older than Eldrinho but had a straight back walked in and said, "Master, why are you so angry?" When the middle-aged man saw the old man, he quickly stood up and said, "Uncle Jiao, please make a trip to the capital and help me bring that unfilial son back. I'd like to see what kind of trouble this unfilial son has caused in the capital." After waking up in the morning, he had breakfast downstairs and returned to his room to log on to Star Web. Lin Yuan's eyes lit up when he saw that the 2 letters he had sent last night had received a reply. However, when Lin Yuan opened one of the letters, a voice suddenly rang out. Lin Yuan frowned deeply. Asking for monthly and recommended votes. End of chapter. Chapter 417. Lin Yuan frowned and looked at the reply on the letter. "Freezing cold, I'll be there at 10 o'clock. I need to see the bronze/epic lizard species Fae that I mentioned before. I also have some requests that I need to say in advance." Freezing Cold was one of the 2 king-class experts who had 2 main Faes when Lin Yuan had issued the trade message. Freezing Cold had 3 spirit chi runes and 2 main Faes. It was considered a pretty good set of equipment for king-class experts. Therefore, when Lin Yuan had seen him ask if there was a bronze/epic lizard species Fae on his side, he had immediately enhanced one. Looking at the personal information sent by Freezing Cold. One of Freezing Cold's 2 contracted Faes was a Diamond 3/Fantasy 2 barb-toothed terror lizard. The other was a Diamond Eye/Fantasy 2 saber-toothed salamander. In terms of raw strength, freezing cold was inferior to Fei Qinxiong. However, the Diamond Eye/Fantasy 2 saber-toothed salamander had completed the transition from a lizard species Fei to a dragon species Fei and had great potential. Lin Yuan had taken a fancy to freezing cold's potential. Moreover, Lin Yuan really did not have any king-class experts that he could use now. That was why he had prepared freezing cold's needs in advance. Otherwise, given freezing cold's strength, he was really not qualified to make such a request. It was just like when the Lightning Sparrow King's pinnacle king-class expert squad wanted to get a bronze/epic Fei. They also needed to integrate resources and put in a lot of effort. As the saying went, be courteous to the wise. Since Lin Yuan was going to implement the white-clothed followers' plan, he would not be stingy with resources for capable people. However, the implementation of the white-clothed followers' plan was not to raise a boss. Lin Yuan would not be stingy with resources for the white-clothed followers, but the premise was that he needed to have absolute control. Lin Yuan had already drawn a question mark in his heart about this king-class expert called Freezing Cold. The white-clothed followers' plan was to form a sword that could sweep across Sky City. The most important thing for a sharp weapon like a sword was obedience. Otherwise, no matter how sharp the sword was, it would hurt itself if it was disobedient. However, Lin Yuan did not directly exclude freezing cold. He intended to take a look in person before making a decision. It was still early, and he had nothing to do anyway, so he called his purchase with No Lost Star Web Fan Club. He was prepared to look through the chat history of his purchase with No Lost Stores Fan Club. After flipping through the records, he realized that an entire night had passed. The people in the group were still enthusiastically discussing the auction of the 30-flower brocade pearls. These 30-flower brocade pearls were treated as group welfare and were publicly auctioned in the group. Therefore, every member's bid would be seen by all the members in the group. Every time someone posted a new price, they would be praised by the others in the group and called them Big Boss. Then, after a period of time, someone else would raise the price. In addition, Braised Egghead Stream in the Clouds, Violent-Tempered Daughter, Buddha-Tempered and Zhou Jiesun joined in. Lin Yuan realized that the auction of the 30-flower brocade pearls, which was treated as group welfare, seemed to have become a ranking competition between the bigwigs in the group. Lin Yuan saw that the highest bidder was a Class 4 Creation Master. The Class 4 Creation Master had already raised the price to a source-type item, 250 caddies of gold-piercing aluminum ore, and 70 mid-grade strange flames. Lin Yuan could not help but secretly click his tongue when he saw this price. A source-type item was a lot more precious than the flower brocade pearls. In other words, it was very difficult to exchange the flower brocade pearls for a source-type item. But now, this Class 4 Creation Master was willing to take out a source-type item to exchange for the flower brocade pearls. This could really reflect the Creation Master's consistent wealth. They would not consider the price when facing the things they wanted. The gold-grade spirit material, piercing aluminum, was an extremely dangerous spirit material. It could hurt people if placed there. The bristly aluminum ore would constantly release sharp metal sword auras. Everything around the piercing aluminum ore would be attacked by the metal sword rays indiscriminately. After injecting spiritual power into it, the metal sword rays released by the piercing aluminum ore would become sharper, more powerful, and the range would also expand. Previously, Lin Yuan had wanted to choose to fuse the gold-piercing aluminum ore into the source sand. However, after weighing the pros and cons, Lin Yuan still chose the day and night spirit silver. At that time, it was more important for Lin Yuan to improve his defense than to enhance his offensive ability. The gold-piercing aluminum ore was even rarer than the day and night spirit silver. The last time it had appeared in the Rare Lifeform Pavilion was 8 months ago. After looking through the chat records for a while, Lin Yuan found that the Class 4 Creation Master's price had been bid by someone else. Lin Yuan was very interested in the 250 caddies of gold-piercing aluminum ore. Lin Yuan could not help but think that even if this Class 4 Creation Master could not complete the final bid, If he wanted to take out the flower brocade pearls to exchange with this class 4 creation master for the 250 caddies of gold-piercing aluminum ore, this class 4 creation master should be willing to do so. Lin Yuan could already feel the huge benefits of the network formed by the purchase with No Loss Stores fan club members in his collection of spiritual ingredients. After feeling this huge benefit, Lin Yuan dispelled the idea of trading these flower brocade pearls with other factions. Through this group welfare auction, Lin Yuan understood the terrifying purchasing power of these big shots in his group. There was still half a day before the end of the group welfare auction. But now, the auction price of these 30 flower brocade pearls was already much higher than the market price. Therefore, the saved flower brocade pearls were put outside for trading. It was better to auction them in the group welfare mode. This was also the same as strengthening the tenacity and flexibility of the relationship network in the group. As Lin Yuan looked at the 10 flower brocade pearls on display in his store, he could already imagine what would happen after tonight's exhibition. He could already imagine that after tonight's exhibition, these 10 flower brocade pearls would definitely set off a bloody storm. Lin Yuan went to check the price of the mid-grade strange flame and found that it had risen a lot compared to before. Lin Yuan blinked and could not help but wonder if he had pried up the price of the mid-grade strange flame spiritual ingredient. Lin Yuan logged onto the Star Web forum and searched for the welfare of his purchase with No Loss Stores fan club. He wanted to see if it had spread out as he had imagined. As a result, Lin Yuan was embarrassed. The welfare of his Star Web Stores fan club had spread out. However, almost half of the posts that Lin Yuan checked were made by lifestyle class spirit chi professionals scolding him in groups. Second update, end of this chapter. Chapter 418. In the Radiance Federation, it was those lifestyle class spirit chi professionals who needed the strange flames the most. These lifestyle class spirit chi professionals criticized the purchase with No Loss Stores owner for using blind barter to purchase mid-grade strange flames. As a result, the price of mid-grade strange flames had risen in the market, severely affecting the daily consumption of lifestyle class spirit chi professionals. These lifestyle class spirit chi professionals' accusations made Lin Yuan feel aggrieved. He had only collected more than 200 mid-level strange flames so far. How big of an impact could they have? Why do these lifestyle class spirit chi professionals hate me so much? What he didn't know was that some factions and creation masters wanted to make deals with him in the future in exchange for the flower brocade pearls. He had already secretly hoarded quite a number of mid-level strange flames. Of course, there were also some forces that did not need the flower brocade pearls. They just wanted to take advantage of the limelight and absorb the resources of mid-grade strange flames that were not abundant in the market. Then, he would raise the price of the mid-level strange flame and take the opportunity to make a killing. He looked at the time, logged out of Star Web, and went downstairs to find Lu Jie. During the time Hu Quan had been promoted to a Class 5 spirit craftsman, Lin Yuan had already told him about the layout of his private faction territory on Star Web. Hu Quan was also working overtime according to Lin Yuan's requirements. He knew that he would immediately get busy after his faction announced its functions on Star Web and started to send out fate letters. Moreover, after the new year, when he established the space tunnel connecting to the Divine Wood Federation, he still had to take care of the development of the Divine Wood Federation. Naturally, he did not have the energy to manage these white-clothed followers. Lu Jie was his retainer knight, so Lu Jie was the most suitable person to control these white-clothed followers. As soon as Lin Yuan went downstairs, he saw Lu Jie walking out of the training room. When Lu Jie saw Lin Yuan, he immediately walked over excitedly and said, "Brother Lin, I'm here." Lin Yuan, my insect queen's bayonet beetle genetic model has evolved. The bayonet beetle's genetic model should now be renamed to flesh-mincing blade insect. After saying that, Lu Jie circulated his spiritual energy in front of Lin Yuan and summoned the insect queen that was half the size of a palm. When Lu Jie first summoned the insect queen, it looked like it was on the brink of death. However, as the purple flesh cocoon squirmed, a small head popped out. Seeing Lu Jie, the little girl was pleasantly surprised. A petite figure flew out of the purple flesh cocoon and hugged Lu Jie's neck. Only now did Lin Yuan know that the insect queen's true body was actually a fairy source-type life form after recovering from its near-death state. Fairy source-type life forms referred to non-animal, plant, or item source-type life forms. Most fairy source-type life forms had humanoid appearances. Lu Jie's insect queen had been hugging Lu Jie's neck ever since it came out. She looked very shy and very dependent on Lu Jie. Lu Jie lovingly rubbed his cheek against the insect queen. At that moment, a phrase suddenly flashed in Lin Yuan's mind: deep father-daughter love. How was Lu Jie raising a source-type life form? He was practically raising a daughter. Lu Jie said to the petite insect queen, Pian, produce a flesh-mincing blade insect. As soon as Lu Jie finished speaking, Lu Jie's fairy-like little insect queen turned into a streak of purple light and returned to the purple flesh cocoon. Immediately after, the purple flesh cocoon landed on the ground and immediately turned into a zerg base. Its body expanded to over 3 meters, and there were many sac-like tubes that were unique to insect species phase. The moment the insect queen transformed, a beetle with an angular shell with 8 sharp long legs was produced by this huge zerg base and appeared in front of Lin Yuan. After carefully examining the flesh-mincing beetle produced by Lu Jie's insect queen, Lin Yuan was quite surprised. This source-type cocoon of evolution was actually so powerful. It allowed the bayonet beetle, an insect species Fey with a relatively simple genetic model, to be so greatly strengthened. The bayonet beetle's attack method was to use the sharp horns on its head to stab. At the same time, it used its 8 legs to assist in the attack. After the bayonet beetle had been strengthened by the cocoon of evolution, the flesh-mincing beetle had weakened the sharp horns on its head. Although the sharp horns on its head had been weakened, each side of the prismatic carapace on its body was very sharp and played the same role as the sharp horns. The 8 sharp, bone-scraper-like legs could quickly cut the Fey's fur and mash the flesh into meat paste as they moved quickly. Although the flesh-mincing blade insects and bayonet beetles' attack methods had not changed. One flesh-mincing blade insect's strength could completely single-handedly fight 3 bayonet beetles of the same size. This was the process of Lu Jie's insect seed going from a qualitative to a quantitative change. Coupled with the insect queen's exclusive skills, insect swarm frenzy and explosive recovery, the insect queen's attacks were extremely powerful. Lu Jie had only buffed one of his skills, yet his strength had increased by at least an entire level. Lin Yuan was very happy about Lu Jie's increase in strength. Congratulations, brother Lu. Your insect sea has taken on a new look. Lin Yuan could feel that Lu Jie was clearly more confident than before. Now that the agreed time with the 2 king-class experts had arrived, Lin Yuan decided to say, let's go. Big brother Lu, let's log into Star Web and meet at the entrance of a store called Purchase with No Loss. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Lu Jie was a little puzzled. Was Lin Yuan asking him to go shopping with him? Lu Jie had heard about the popularity of the Purchase with No Loss store even though he did not close the forum. It was said that it was a boutique shop with a mysterious boss that only sold exquisite items. Although Lu Jie was puzzled, he naturally would not refuse Lin Yuan's words. Alright, I'll return to my room and log into the Star Web now. Hu Quan no longer stayed up late recently, so he used the daytime to create various objects. When he saw that Lin Yuan was pulling Lu Jie to Star Web for something, he said, let's go. When the 2 of you go out, put on the masks I made for you. Boys have to protect themselves when they go out. When Lin Yuan heard Hu Quan's words, he felt that Uncle Hu Quan was a little strange, as though there was an unknown story behind him. Why do boys have to protect themselves? Weren't the ones who needed to protect themselves all girls? Lu Jie could not help but ask when Hu Quan mentioned the oddly shaped but very light mask. Uncle Hu, aren't the masks you made only worn when we're out representing our forces? Isn't it strange to wear it in a Star Web store? Before Hu Quan could speak, Lin Yuan smiled brightly at Lu Jie, revealing a mouthful of white teeth. Brother Lu, we really have to wear it this time. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Lu Jie immediately became solemn. He knew that Lin Yuan was looking for him to go to Star Web to do something related to his faction. Suddenly, Lu Jia thought of the rumors on Star Web, saying that the owner of the purchase with no law store was a young man. Lu Jia could not help but have some doubts. Could this young boss be Lin Yuan? Looking for recommendation votes, monthly votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 419. Lu Jia returned to his room one step ahead of Lin Yuan. Just as Lin Yuan was about to return to his room, he heard Hu Quan's voice. I really don't know how you came up with so many ideas. Other people are afraid of wasting this completely jade-like gold-rimmed Nanmu. But you asked me to extract the crystallized golden threads from the gold-threaded Nanmu for you, bit by bit. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan scratched the back of his head and asked Hu Quan. Uncle Hu, is it difficult to extract the golden threads from the completely jade-textured gold-threaded Nanmu? Hu Quan chuckled and said. If I didn't have this fantasy breed wood-weaving house centipede, I wouldn't have been able to deal with these crystallized golden threads. Even if I could separate these crystallized golden threads from these completely jade-textured gold-threaded Nanmu, I wouldn't be able to separate them so completely like this. However, the number of completely jade-textured gold-rimmed Nanmu you gave me is really quite a lot. It will take at least 13 to 14 days to extract all the crystallized golden threads. At this point, Hu Quan rolled his eyes and said with a grin. Why don't you tell Wen Yu to let me stay up late during this period? Also, don't let Lu Jia make pork liver soup for me while I stay up late. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan replied without thinking. Don't worry, Uncle Hu. You can take care of it during the day. Even if I tell Wen Yu about you staying up late, it won't count. Lin Yuan was also against Hu Quan staying up all night. Compared to Hu Quan's creativity as a Class 5 spirit craftsman, Lin Yuan hoped that Hu Quan could create in a healthy state. Instead of rushing for work, staying up all day and affecting his health. He had never treated Hu Quan as a tool and wanted to squeeze Hu Quan's labor at any time. Hu Quan's image was pieced together on the wall behind him. Hu Quan was already a part of the manor. Seeing that his plan didn't work, Hu Quan said angrily. All right, I'm going to get busy. Go back to your room and don't let Lu Jia wait for too long. Lin Yuan finally knew what it meant to throw it away after using it. No, it should be thrown away if it's useless. What a jerk. When he logged on to Star Web this time, he put on the mask with the majestic sky city pattern that Hu Quan had created with completely jade-textured silk threads. When he arrived at the entrance of the purchase with no law store, he happened to see an acquaintance. When he saw the violent-tempered woman at the entrance of his store, he greeted her. The violent-tempered woman only recognized Lin Yuan when he took the initiative to greet her. It had to be said that Lin Yuan looked rather mature wearing the mask that Hu Quan had created, which only revealed his mouth and chin. The violent-tempered woman hurriedly said when she saw Lin Yuan. Sir, why did the store stop selling silver usnias and elite spirit siphon goldfish? Lin Yuan replied with a smile. It only stopped yesterday. I don't know when it will stop. If you need silver rank usnias, you can send me a message directly. He cherished the people he had known when he was weak. The violent-tempered woman quickly waved her hand and said. Sir, there's no need to trouble you. I've already gained so many benefits from your fan club. The violent-tempered woman was very grateful to Lin Yuan. When Lin Yuan had helped her daughter heal her Fae's damaged roots, he had also improved her Fae's quality. He had also conveniently improved his daughter's Fae's quality. This was simply a huge favor. During this time, the violent-tempered woman had gotten to know many big shots in Lin Yuan's purchase with no law store's fan club. Just by listening to the news from these big shots, the violent-tempered woman had carried out a few transactions of spiritual materials. This allowed the violent-tempered woman to earn a lot of radiance dollars. The radiance dollars the violent-tempered woman earned in this month was more than what she usually earned in 2 years of hard work in the Guild Alliance. Lin Yuan wanted to invite the violent-tempered woman into the store for a while. Just as he was about to invite the violent-tempered woman, she said, Sir, please go ahead. My roasted chicken is especially delicious. I'll send you a roasted chicken to touch later. After the violent-tempered woman left Lin Yuan's purchase with no loss store. As usual, she chatted in the purchase with no loss store's fan club. During her daily chatting, the violent-tempered woman accidentally spilled the beans. Violent-tempered woman, I saw the group owner at the entrance of the Star Web store. He seems to be going into the store to do something. The violent-tempered woman's message in the group made the eyes of many big shots light up. The group owner had always been mysterious. After they entered the group, they only saw the group owner auction 30 flower brocade pearls as a group welfare. After that, the group leader didn't say anything else. The group owner was usually uncontactable. This was because the mysterious group owner was so aloof that he did not reply to any messages at all. Now that they heard that the group owner had appeared in the store, many of the big shots in the group who saw the violent-tempered woman's message immediately took action. Lin Yuan had only stood at the entrance for a few minutes when he saw Lu Jia walking over wearing a mask made by Hu Quan. Lu Jia usually wore the Radiance Sacred Hall's 100 Successor battle armor on Star Web for the Radiance 100 sequence members. However, Hu Quan had changed the 100 Successor battle armor today and put on a reddish-gold half-body armor. Coupled with Lu Jia's mask, which only revealed his knife-like chin, he looked exceptionally heroic. When Lu Jia saw Lin Yuan, he was standing at the entrance of the store and opening the door of the originally closed Star Web store. Upon seeing this, Lu Jia knew that he had really guessed correctly. Lin Yuan was really the mysterious purchase with no loss store's owner. After Lin Yuan and Lu Jia met, they entered the purchase with no loss store. Lin Yuan's purchase with no loss store did not have any shelves inside. Since Lin Yuan had recently removed the silver usnias and elite spirit siphon goldfish, the purchase with no loss store's interior was empty. In addition, when Lin Yuan opened the store, the standard long table that Star Web had given him was still in the store. This made the purchase with no loss Star Web store look more like a restaurant with only one table than a fey and spiritual ingredient store. Lin Yuan had asked Lu Jia to come to the store half an hour earlier, which was 9:30 am. However, less than 5 minutes after Lin Yuan and Lu Jia sat down, they saw a thin man walk in. Lin Yuan asked the thin man, "Is it Zhou Luo? Is it Zhou Luo?" His appearance had been included in the personal information that the two King-class experts had sent him. Lin Yuan had already recognized that Zhou Luo was the King-class expert who had 3 willpower runes but had an extremely weak main fey. Second update button fever viral cold New Year's Day crying asking for tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 420. When Zhou Luo heard the young man with the strange mask call out his name, he finally confirmed that he had not come to the wrong place. Zhou Luo looked around the store in surprise. He did not dare to believe that the legendary purchase with no loss store did not have any phase or spiritual ingredients. There was only an ordinary table. Zhou Luo said hurriedly, "I'm Zhou Luo. May I ask if my main fey, the Iron Bone Iguana, can meet your requirements?" Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan casually flipped his hand and summoned a chair. This chair was the same as the one Lin Yuan was sitting on, and it had been given to him by Star Web when he had opened his store. At this moment, Zhou Luo heard a young man wearing a strange mask say, "Take a seat first. There will be another person in a while. We'll talk when everyone is here." Hearing this, Zhou Luo sat on the chair. He stealthily sized up the 2 masked youths sitting not far from him. Just by looking at the mask, Zhou Luo could tell that the man in the white and blue robe was obviously of a higher status than the man in the reddish-gold half-body armor. This man in a white and blue striped robe should be the purchase with no loss store's owner. At the same time, Zhou Luo was secretly depressed. His Iron Bone Iguana was only a Platinum 9/Fantasy I existence. In terms of strength, it was hard to say who would emerge victorious if they were to fight against those Diamond 4/V Fays that weren't fantasy breeds. Did he really have a chance to fight for a future with this kind of strength? At this moment, Zhou Luo was fantasizing about getting Heavenly Maiden-level elemental pearls produced by 5 scorching elemental shellfish. This would allow his main fey, the Iron Bone Iguana, to mutate the huge sarcoma on its neck into a second head. Just as Zhou Luo was letting his imagination run wild, Lin Yuan had already set up an entrance control for his purchase with no loss store, setting it so that only freezing cold could enter for a while. The setting of access control was the privilege of the owner of a private shop on the Star Web. Of course, this was excluding stores like Lin Yuan's that did not have to worry about buyers. Other shops had the privilege to set up access control, but they might not use it even once in their lives. Time flew by, and half an hour passed quickly. Lin Yuan's brows slowly furrowed. At this time, it was already 10 o'clock. However, freezing cold did not appear at the agreed time. After another 5 minutes, just as Lin Yuan was about to disqualify freezing cold from entering the door, a tall and sturdy man walked in through the door. This burly man was freezing cold. His cold eyes scanned around the house before he walked in front of Lin Yuan and said casually, "You're the one who killed Lin Yuan. I was watching the competition video in the Star Web video library and was delayed by 5 minutes." When Lin Yuan heard freezing cold's casual tone, his brows furrowed even tighter. At that moment, Lin Yuan changed the question mark in his heart from freezing cold to an incorrect one. Freezing cold's casual attitude showed that freezing cold didn't take this meeting seriously at all. Not only did it show freezing cold's contempt for their forces, but it also showed that freezing cold was not a punctual person. Before Lin Yuan could say anything, he heard freezing cold speak again. "Your store doesn't seem to have as many good things as others have told me. I'm here to make a request. Take it out for me to see first. If you can't meet my requirements, then I won't waste my time here." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan's frown eased, but his gaze was no longer on freezing cold. Lin Yuan's tone was no different from usual. "Are you here to exchange this bronze/epic fey with your life?" Freezing cold shook his head and said. "Serve me? What kind of service? An oath of loyalty is definitely impossible, but I can complete the task according to your instructions. After completing a certain mission, I will exchange the bronze/epic lizard species fey from you. If your mission is too difficult to complete, I can help you find more king-class elites to help you complete the mission, but you'll have to pay for it. Of course, if you're willing to give me this bronze/epic lizard species fey first, I can reduce the reward for each mission by 10%. Just as freezing cold finished speaking, he heard a low voice. "Are you worthy of giving you the bronze/epic fey first?" As he spoke, Lu Jie, who was wearing the reddish-gold half-body armor, stood up. According to what Lin Yuan had just told him, Lu Jie knew that the purpose of coming to the Star Web store this time was to recruit king-class experts. He wanted these king-class experts to become Sky City's white-clothed followers. In essence, Lin Yuan intended to start expanding Sky City's military force. Lin Yuan also said that he would pour bronze/epic fey resources into the recruited white-clothed followers. It was equivalent to saying that Lin Yuan had to make a considerable investment in every white-clothed follower. Few people understood Lin Yuan's wealth better than Lu Jie, who had been by Lin Yuan's side since the beginning. However, this burly man in front of him shamelessly wanted to get the bronze/epic fey resources first, but he was unwilling to be loyal. He was simply too greedy. If he took out the bronze/epic fey resources, he could hire a squad of pinnacle king-class experts to go on a mission. Instead of hiring such a king-class expert who had no concept of time to do multiple missions. Clearly, it was more worthwhile to hire a small team of peak king stage powerhouses. Upon hearing Lu Jie's words, freezing cold's face showed obvious displeasure. "You're just a Star Web store. If I hadn't heard that your store sells any kind of bronze/epic feys, I wouldn't have been able to find you. I wouldn't think of doing odd jobs here. Compared to us, the huge axe mercenaries, your Star Web store is still far from being good." Lu Jie's face darkened even further. Lin Yuan wasn't angry, but he was rather speechless. He had always been used to treating other factions as leaks and would always use the things produced in his Spirit Lock spatial zone to harvest them. But this time, there was actually a king-class expert who had pledged loyalty to a faction. However, he wanted to go to his purchase with no loss store to accept missions and harvest his leeks. Moreover, this freezing cold not only wants to cut his leeks, but also wants the middleman to earn the price difference. Speaking of the huge axe mercenaries, Lin Yuan had learned about all the major factions from Wen Yu. The axe mercenaries were not among them. Lin Yuan looked at Lu Jia and asked, "Brother Lu, have you heard of the battle axe mercenaries?" Lu Jia shook his head, but his eyes were still very gloomy as he looked at freezing cold. Begging for recommendation votes, monthly votes, begging for free reading of this book. Big brother, if you really like this book, subscribe to it. End of this chapter. Chapter 421. Lin Yuan turned his head and looked at the man sitting on the chair who had come in first. "Zhou Luo, have you heard of the huge axe mercenaries?" Zhou Luo had always felt that he didn't have any sense of existence, but he didn't expect to be called out by this youth with a strange mask. Zhou Luo hurriedly replied, "Of course I've heard of the huge axe mercenaries. The huge axe mercenaries are a very powerful faction with 11 king-class experts. The strongest of them is said to be just a hair's breadth away from pinnacle king-class." Lin Yuan nodded in response. Judging from the number and strength of king-class experts, the huge axe mercenaries should be considered a veteran rising faction. Just from the word mercenary, it was obvious that this rising faction's function was to accept hires to complete missions and harvest resources. It was considered a rising faction that relied on martial strength to survive. It was almost the new year, and it was the carnival season of the Radiance Federation's tournament. The huge axe mercenaries probably couldn't take on any missions now, so freezing cold, as a member, had started to do odd jobs. Lin Yuan couldn't help but feel a little playful when Zhou Luo mentioned that the strongest expert in the huge axe mercenaries was just a hair's breadth away from pinnacle king class. Peak king class did not refer to a specific rank. All king-class experts with Diamond 8/Fantasy 3 phase and above could be called pinnacle king-class experts. Therefore, the introduction of being just a hair's breadth away from pinnacle king-class experts was a little confusing. The huge axe mercenaries should be using this to show their signboard to the outside world. They were hoping to take on more missions. For a mercenary group with king-class experts like this, the competition was extremely intense. Such factions relied on strength to speak. Therefore, it was clear at a glance which faction's business was better. As soon as Zhou Luo finished speaking, he didn't expect to be immediately targeted by the burly man next to him. "A few days ago, my big brother became a pinnacle king-class expert." "What do you mean by just a hair's breadth away from pinnacle king-class experts?" Zhou Luo was a little speechless. "I'm not a member of the huge axe mercenaries. Who the hell would keep an eye on the latest news of the huge axe mercenaries? What does it have to do with me whether your huge axe mercenaries have a pinnacle king-class expert or not?" Lin Yuan looked at freezing cold, who was obviously a little angry, and said, "Since you can't give me loyalty, then I can't give you a future either. You don't need to waste your time here." When Leng Shan heard this, the expression on his face stiffened, and he immediately became unwilling. "My time isn't worth much anyway, so let it be wasted. I'm sure he's also a king-class expert you found. I'd like to see if I'm suitable and if he's not. You're the owner of this shop. You can't possibly chase people away." Zhou Luo, who was sitting on the chair, felt somewhat baffled. Why was he being targeted by this burly man again? Oh my god. This big fellow wouldn't have any improper thoughts towards me, right? Lu Jia clenched his fists and looked at Lin Yuan. His eyes conveyed the meaning of, "If you nod, I'll kick him out." Lin Yuan shook his head at Lu Jia and then said indifferently to freezing cold, "You can stay if you want. Your door is open. You can leave whenever you're bored." Lin Yuan thought to himself. He wouldn't chase people out of the shop. However, they would set up an entrance guard to block all the customers outside the door, not allowing them to enter. After saying that, Lin Yuan wouldn't spare a trace of energy on freezing cold, who was standing at the side. Since freezing cold couldn't become a member of the white-clothed followers, Lin Yuan no longer needed to work on him. Lin Yuan said to Zhou Luo, who was sitting on the chair, "You heard what we said just now. You heard what we said just now. If I can pour resources into you and let you grow quickly, are you willing to pledge your loyalty to me?" Zhou Luo nodded without hesitation. Zhou Luo had heard the conversation between Lin Yuan and Freezing Cold just now, so he naturally knew that offering loyalty was to swear with the willpower rune and issue an allegiance oath. Only in this way could he directly express his loyalty and let the other party pour resources into him without any scruples. Giving and receiving might not necessarily be proportional to doing things. However, without giving, there would definitely be no return. Zhou Luo still understood this principle. Given his current situation, if he could find a faction to rely on, he wouldn't have to work so hard anymore. However, Zhou Luo didn't know how many resources this masked youth in front of him would pour on him in the future. In fact, what Zhou Luo was most worried about now was not what he could get after pledging his loyalty. Instead, it was whether this masked youth in front of him would accept his allegiance. Zhou Luo really wasn't confident enough in the strength of his main fei, the Iron Bone Iguana. Zhou Luo took a deep breath and said with some apprehension, "Do you think my strength can meet the requirements?" Zhou Luo knew very well that he never had the right to be picky about the faction he wanted to join. He could only quietly wait for others to choose him. Lin Yuan didn't care about the weakness of Zhou Luo's main fei. Lin Yuan remembered that Zhou Luo's main fei was a Platinum 9/Fantasy I defense-type fei, the Iron Bone Iguana. However, what Zhou Luo had written in the information at that time was that this Platinum 9/Fantasy I Iron Bone Iguana's neck had mutated. The mutation at the neck would affect some of the body's movements, which would affect the Iron Bone Iguana's strength to a certain extent. Since Zhou Luo was in front of him, Lin Yuan also wanted to see what was wrong with his Iron Bone Iguana in person. If Zhou Luo's main fei, the Iron Bone Iguana, had a mutation at its neck, it would seriously affect its strength. In that case, Zhou Luo would be a burden to Lin Yuan. After all, Zhou Luo's main fei was weak to begin with. Coupled with the influence of the mutation at his neck, it would be difficult for him to obtain resources to nurture new feis. In this case, even if Lin Yuan gave Zhou Luo a bronze/epic fei, Zhou Luo would still need Lin Yuan's investment if he wanted to grow. If it was such a loss-making deal, he would not do it. Thus, Lin Yuan said, "Summon your main fei for me to see." Zhou Luo hesitated for a moment. He then took a deep breath and channeled his spiritual energy to summon his main fei, the Iron Bone Iguana. The moment Zhou Luo summoned the Iron Bone Iguana, Lin Yuan's eyes were fixed on its neck. It was not that Lin Yuan was deliberately staring at the neck of Zhou Luo's main fei, the Iron Bone Iguana. The sarcoma on its neck was too obvious. The sarcoma on the neck of Zhou Luo's main fei, the Iron Bone Iguana. It was a quarter of the size of the Iron Bone Iguana's head. This made Lin Yuan suddenly think of a delicacy, the big potato pressure pot small potato. Second update seeking monthly votes, recommendation votes, and full subscriptions. End of this chapter. Chapter 422. After the Iron Bone Iguana was summoned, it seemed to feel very uncomfortable on its neck, so it started to habitually shake its neck. However, due to the huge tumor on its neck growing on the right side, the Iron Bone Iguana's shaking toward the right side of the tumor was obviously a big burden. This situation made it difficult for the Iron Bone Iguana, a defense-type fei, to quickly respond to attacks on the right side of its body. Lin Yuan used Morbius True Data to check this Iron Bone Iguana's attributes. Fei name, Iron Bone Iguana, Fei species, Iguana/giant iguana, Fei grade, Platinum, 9 out of 10, Fei type, Earth, Fei quality, Fantasy I. Lin Yuan found that there was nothing wrong with the Iron Bone Iguana's basic attributes. However, when Lin Yuan saw the reason for the mutation at the Iron Bone Iguana's neck in True Data, his pupils constricted. It could be said that this Iron Bone Iguana had built a ladder to the top of the mountain through mutation. However, as the Iron Bone Iguana's contractor, Zhou Luo did not have the conditions to send the Iron Bone Iguana to the bottom of the mountain. He wanted the iron bone iguana to climb the mountain. As for the pure fire elemental energy required for this iron bone iguana to transform, True Data said, Lin Yuan had a lot of it. The scorching elemental shellfish in Morbius Spirit Lock Spatial Zone would produce an elemental pearl containing pure fire elemental energy every few minutes. However, the Heaven and Earth Fey Twin Fire Thorn's main flower absorbed fire elemental energy. It was not as powerful as the floating island whale. The scorching elemental shellfish produced elemental pearls faster than the Twin Fire Thorn's main flower absorbed them. Therefore, Lin Yuan had to collect these elemental pearls containing pure fire elemental energy every once in a while. Now, Lin Yuan had collected nearly 500 of these elemental pearls containing pure fire elemental energy. These elemental pearls containing pure fire elemental energy could be considered Lin Yuan's more precious resource reserves at present. At that moment, Lin Yuan heard a burst of presumptuous laughter. Freezing Cold pointed at the iron bone iguana with a disdainful expression. I didn't expect you to be an affinity lizard species fey like me, but your deformed lizard is too weak. My fey can bite a deformed lizard like you to death. After saying that, Freezing Cold channeled his spiritual energy and summoned his two lizard species main feys. Zhou Luo's iron bone iguana was 7 meters long because it was a giant iguana. However, in front of the two feys summoned by Freezing Cold, the iron bone iguana suddenly became small. Although the burst fang terror lizard was also 7 meters long, it was extremely muscular. The bulging muscles and the sharp teeth in its mouth were enough to show the bucktooth terror lizard's powerful attack power. Although the other saber-tooth Japalura's level and quality were not as high as the bucktooth terror lizard, it was much stronger than the other saber-tooth drake. However, the sword-toothed dragon lizard's body was nearly 12 meters long and had the massive aura unique to dragon species feys. He used Morbius True Data to check the attributes of these two lizard feys. Fey name, Burst-Toothed Terror Lizard, Spirit Species, Tyrannical Lizard/Toothed Lizard, Fey Grade, Diamond, 3 out of 10, Fey Type, Metal, Fey Quality, Fantasy 2. Fey name, Sword-Toothed Dragon Lizard, Spirit Species, Stegosauridi/Toothed Lizard, Fey Grade, Diamond, 1/10, Fey Type, Earth/Metal, Fey Quality, Fantasy II. Lin Yuan checked the attributes of the two lizard feys that Freezing Cold had summoned. He felt that this Diamond I/Fantasy II Sword-Toothed Lizard Dragon was really good. This Diamond I/Fantasy II Sword-Toothed Lizard Dragon's dragon species bloodline had been stimulated to an extremely high degree. If it was lucky enough to become a myth breed in the future, it would probably be promoted to a true ancient dragon species. When Freezing Cold saw Lin Yuan looking at the feys that he had summoned, he immediately put away the two lizard feys that he had summoned. He then glanced at Lin Yuan with some caution. In other people's Star Web stores, if one summoned a fey that was above gold without the owner's permission, if it was reported by the owner, one would be punished. The lightest punishment would be the Star Web account being banned for 2 days. A more serious punishment would even be the Star Web account being banned for a month. Freezing Cold did not want to bear such a punishment. The main purpose of Freezing Cold summoning his two feys was to mock Zhou Luo's main fey, the Iron Bone Iguana. When Freezing Cold saw that Lin Yuan had no intention of reporting him, he continued to sneer at the Iron Bone Iguana on the ground. His gaze especially swept twice at the protruding sarcoma on the Iron Bone Iguana's neck. He then looked at Zhou Luo contemptuously and whistled. At that moment, Lu Jia, who was sitting next to Lin Yuan, secretly admired Lin Yuan's bearing. Even though he had been silent for 3 years, was used to the fickleness of human nature, and had felt the real world as humble as dust, he still could not control his temper. However, Lin Yuan had a calm expression as if he did not care about Freezing Cold's rudeness and offense. Zhou Luo's face turned livid when he was ridiculed. This undisguised disdain made Zhou Luo feel a sharp pain in his heart. However, Zhou Luo did not use words to fight back. Instead, he looked at Lin Yuan and said firmly, "If you can really give me a future and give me a chance to become stronger, I'm willing to swear on the willpower rune and issue the loyalty oath as a servant." When Zhou Luo said this, an idea suddenly came to his mind. Should I ask if I can get 5 heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls produced by the scorching elemental shellfish? However, when he thought of what the class for creation Master Duan Li's retainer knight had said, that even Master Duan Li could not get the heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls, Zhou Luo forcibly suppressed his hope and request to obtain the heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls. Freezing Cold originally wanted to mock Zhou Luo again, but when he heard Zhou Luo's words, he subconsciously froze. There were a total of 3 kinds of loyalty oaths. The first was the guardian oath, the second was the retainer oath, and the third was the servant oath. Under normal circumstances, King-class experts swear on the willpower rune to issue the loyalty oath. Most of them sign the guardian oath, while a few sign the retainer contract. Very few experts are willing to use the willpower rune to sign the servant oath and bet their lives on a faction or a certain person. Although a person can only issue the loyalty oath once in their life. Due to the different types of loyalty oaths, the status and degree of freedom in the faction that they are loyal to will be completely different. The status and degree of freedom in the faction that they will be loyal to will be completely different. First chapter, end of this chapter. Chapter 423. Freezing Cold did not think that Zhou Luo was really crazy. It was extremely difficult for low-level king stage experts to obtain resources, so they were all exceptionally shrewd. Freezing Cold stared at the 2 masked youths for a moment before carefully looking at the empty Star Web store. Freezing Cold couldn't help but suspect that his brother from the Great Axe mercenary group had introduced him to try his luck. A Star Web store that wanted to see if one could earn high-quality bronze phase through doing odd jobs? Could it have a powerful background? Freezing Cold usually logged onto Star Web and spent half of his time dueling on the Celestial Stairway. The other half of his time was spent in the Celestial Stairway video library, watching duel videos. He rarely browsed the Star Web forums and never paid attention to the gossip of the Star Web stores. At this moment, Freezing Cold felt that after returning to the huge Axe mercenaries, I have to ask that brother what the background of this Star Web store is. However, Freezing Cold still felt that he might be thinking too much. Perhaps he should secretly test the waters. When Lin Yuan heard Zhou Luo's words, he was rather surprised that Zhou Luo would not make a direct request. Instead, he said that if he could help him become stronger, he would be willing to swear a loyalty oath to him. Although Zhou Luo did not say it, Lin Yuan also understood that before Zhou Luo used the willpower rune to swear to him, Lin Yuan had to show what he could give Zhou Luo. Just as Lin Yuan was about to give Zhou Luo his promise, he heard Freezing Cold's voice. Even if I can't do it, you should at least show me the bronze/epic lizard species Fey that I requested previously. Upon hearing Freezing Cold mention the bronze/epic lizard species Fey, Lin Yuan was stunned. Zhou Luo's eyes widened in an instant, and his breathing became a little ragged. Lin Yuan ignored Freezing Cold and looked at Zhou Luo. Your Fey affinity direction is also toward lizard Feys, right? Zhou Luo nodded. He waved his hand, and a nearly 4-meter-long lizard with 3 huge bone plates was summoned. The lizard's huge, dark purple bone plates stood up high. The top of the huge bone plate was like a drawing board with black energy swimming around like a spirit snake. The fangs in this lizard Fey's mouth were like the venomous fangs of snake species Feys. However, when the summoned lizard raised its 3 gigantic bone plates and roared, the lizard's body trembled. The sharp teeth in his mouth instantly shot out, and the dense hollow teeth instantly wrapped around his lower jaw. Although it was a lizard species Fey's roar, it was sharper and had the unique pressure of a dragon species Fey. The instant Zhou Luo saw this lizard species Fey, he felt blood rushing to his brain, causing him to feel a little dizzy. This kind of supreme-grade lizard Fey that had awakened the dragon species bloodline at bronze was a legendary rare Fey. He was lucky enough to see such a legendary spirit creature in his lifetime. From what the masked youth had said, it seemed like the Fey was going to be given to him. Lin Yuan realized that after he had summoned the dark snake dragon lizard, Zhou Luo's eyes had never left it. Lin Yuan knew that Zhou Luo really liked this lizard Fey that he had enhanced. Lin Yuan replied, This dark snake dragon lizard can be considered a small supreme grade fae. The exclusive skill, Dark Body, can effectively help the dark snake dragon lizard resist physical damage and enhance its movement speed. At the same time, it can also enhance its dark type abilities. Since you chose to be loyal to me, this dark snake dragon lizard is the future I'm giving you. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Zhou Luo's heart beat even more violently. An extreme excitement and ecstasy surged in his heart. Although he had guessed it before, he was still in disbelief now. This masked youth actually gave such a supreme grade bronze/epic fae to him immediately after he decided to be loyal to him. It was simply a huge sum of money. When Freezing Cold saw this dark snake dragon lizard, he felt that he had successfully given up on a small goal and lost 100 million yuan. He actually gave a supreme grade fae like the dark snake dragon lizard just like that. It was given to a king-class expert whose main fae was pitifully weak and deformed. Freezing Cold felt that this behavior was simply prodigal. If this dark snake dragon lizard was given to him, he would be qualified to go to Ascending Dragon City's Long family to try his luck with 2 dragon species faes. At the same time, Freezing Cold could be sure that his understanding of this Star Web Store's background should be wrong. Zhou Luo had slowly calmed down from his excitement. He hurriedly stood up from the stool and respectfully said to Lin Yuan, "My lord, Zhou Luo will be at your disposal in the future." When Lin Yuan heard Zhou Luo's words, the corners of his mouth under the mask hooked up. "Come to the royal capital immediately according to the address I sent you. After you swear with the willpower rune, you can also take this dark snake dragon lizard to nurture as soon as possible. Come to the royal city immediately according to the address I sent you. Once you swear on the willpower rune, you can take this dark snake Japalura and cultivate it as soon as possible." Just as Zhou Luo was about to express his gratitude, Lin Yuan spoke again. Just as Zhou Luo was about to thank him, Lin Yuan said again, "The sarcoma on your iron bone iguana's neck is mutating in a good direction. It just so happens that I can solve it for you after you arrive at the royal capital." Upon hearing that, Zhou Luo's body trembled in surprise. At that moment, Zhou Luo was far happier than when he knew he was going to get the dark snake dragon lizard. Zhou Luo could be said to have been dependent on the iron bone iguana since childhood. In order to survive, they had experienced countless life and death situations together. Zhou Luo did not have other faes, so he poured all his feelings into the iron bone iguana. It could be said that the iron bone iguana was equivalent to Zhou Luo's life. Zhou Luo's face was flushed with excitement, and his lips trembled a little. "My lord, do you have heavenly maiden grade elemental pearls?" Zhou Luo was a little surprised. At that time, Master Duanli had also checked before seeing the iron bone iguana's mutation. However, the youth wearing the strange mask had seen through the true reason for the sarcoma on the iron bone iguana's neck at a glance. Lin Yuan was slightly stunned when he heard Zhou Luo mention the heavenly maiden grade elemental pearls. Then, he recalled what Gao Feng had said before about the elemental shellfish being induced to mutate. The elemental pearls produced by the elemental shellfish were also divided into several grades according to the purity of the spirit chi they absorbed. The heavenly maiden grade was the highest grade among the elemental pearls. The elemental pearls in Lin Yuan's hand absorbed the spirit chi in the spirit lock spatial zone. It could be said that the purity was almost 100%, and it was also the best among the heavenly maiden grade pearls. Lin Yuan had always thought that Zhou Luo did not know the cause of the sarcoma on the iron bone iguana's neck, but he did not expect Zhou Luo to know so clearly. "Yes, I have some heavenly maiden grade elemental pearls that contain fire element energy produced by the scorching elemental shellfish." Second update asking for monthly tickets, recommendation tickets go and book all button is in the hospital for New Year's Eve this year. Everyone, take care of your health, don't forget to wear a mask. End of this chapter. Chapter 424. When Freezing Cold had seen the purchase with no loss store owner give the dark snake dragon lizard to Zhou Luo, he had lamented that the purchase with no loss store wasn't simple. After all, it was a bronze/epic dark snake dragon lizard. Who knew if the purchase with no loss store owner just happened to have it? However, the spirit chi concentration required for the heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls was something that could only be concocted by a class for creation master or above. This also meant that there was at least an advanced class for creation master behind this one-star web store. What shocked Freezing Cold even more was that the purchase with no loss store owner was actually willing to use such precious heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls to save this deformed and weak lizard. Freezing Cold had always had deep feelings for the Battle Axe mercenaries. Otherwise, he would not have been willing to swear loyalty to the Battle Axe mercenaries. But at this moment, Freezing Cold couldn't help but think that if he didn't issue an oath of allegiance to the Battle Axe mercenaries with the willpower rune, he would have died. Now, all these good things belonged to him, right? At that moment, Lin Yuan's first white-cloaked follower recruitment was considered over. Although he had only recruited one white-cloaked follower, Zhou Luo, and Zhou Luo's current strength was still very weak. However, Zhou Luo's main fei, the Iron Bone Iguana, had absorbed the pure fire elemental energy in the elemental pearls and completed its mutation. He would receive a huge boost. After the sarcoma on the neck of the Iron Bone Iguana completely mutated and grew a new head, Zhou Luo could rely on the resources earned by the Iron Bone Iguana to support the Dark Snake Dragon Lizard and did not need Lin Yuan to worry anymore. Lin Yuan turned his head and said to Lu Jie, "Brother Lu, Zhou Luo will be your first warrior from now on." Lu Jie replied in a serious tone, "Leave it to me." During this period of time, it could be said that Lu Jie had been watching the people in the manor as they busied themselves with the construction of Sky Castle. But he was the only one who had nothing to do. Now, he could finally shoulder the responsibility and do his part for Sky City and Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan looked at Freezing Cold and said, "We're about to leave, and you still want to walk around this shop?" As he spoke, he opened his Star Web Store's access control. Just when Freezing Cold was a little embarrassed and wanted to speak, he found that a lot of people suddenly came into the shop, and he knew two of them. These two people were the real big shots. Lin Yuan did not expect that when he opened the purchase with no loss store's access control, more than 30 people would rush in at once. At a glance, Lin Yuan realized that most of these 30 people were members of his store's fan club. Lin Yuan immediately knew that the violent-tempered woman must have told her fans about seeing him at the entrance of the store. He had lurked as much as he wanted in his purchase with no loss store's fan club. However, he did not expect to be blocked by more than 30 big shots in his Star Web Store. Zhou Luo was originally in a state of pleasant surprise and excitement. He was prepared to log off the Star Web and head to the royal capital at the agreed location. However, by the time Zhou Luo had recovered from his surprise, Zhou Luo was puzzled by the sudden appearance of a house full of people. Could it be that he was too surprised and lost his memory? At that moment, Zhou Luo heard a kind voice by his ear. "I didn't expect to see you again after a day." When Zhou Luo heard this voice, he immediately turned his head. He was a little surprised at first, but he quickly bowed and said. When Zhou Luo heard this voice, he immediately turned his head. The old woman called Master Duanli also looked at Zhou Luo with some surprise. She seemed to be wondering why Zhou Luo would appear in this purchase with no loss store. She had discovered Zhou Luo's existence when she entered the store. Could Zhou Luo be related to this Star Web Store? However, Master Duanli immediately denied this idea. If Zhou Luo was really related to this Star Web Store, his main fei would not be such an iron bone iguana. Zhou Luo felt a little scared and Master Duanli sized him up. Since when was he worthy of an intermediate class for creation master spending so much effort on him? Zhou Luo quickly found a topic. "Thank you, Master Duanli, for letting your retainer knight give me pointers." Master Duanli kindly patted Zhou Luo's shoulder and said, "Your fei affinity is lizard species phase. Your fei affinity is lizard species phase, and most of them are better at attacking. You might as well find a bronze/flawless power offense-type lizard species fei to contract first and cultivate more new feis when you have resources in the future." Zhou Luo glanced at Master Duanli gratefully. Zhou Luo knew that Master Duanli wanted to tell him not to cultivate his main fei, the iron bone iguana. As long as the iron bone iguana did not complete its mutation, it would not have the slightest potential. It would also affect the iron bone iguana's original combat ability. However, the iron bone iguana's mutation had been resolved. Zhou Luo looked at the young man wearing a strange mask who was surrounded by the crowd for a long time before speaking to Master Duan Li. Master, my iron bone iguana mutation has been resolved. Master Duan Li's kind face flashed with a hint of astonishment. Master Duan Li also followed Zhou Luo's gaze and looked into the distance at the young man wearing a strange mask. Zhou Luo had just found out about the iron bone iguana's mutation yesterday, but it had been resolved now. And it was in this small store. The reason for this was self-evident. Lin Yuan felt that he was going to be hollowed out by the big shots in this group. In just a few words, the number of flower brocade pearls that these big shots wanted to buy from him added up to 200. Moreover, there were still new big shots applying to trade with him. Among them, Lin Yuan found that among the big shots in the group, the ones who needed the most flower brocade pearls were not creation masters. This meant that these non-creation master group members either needed so many flower brocade pearls because they had a major faction behind them, or they simply wanted to hoard a batch of goods and sell them at a high price when the flower brocade pearls were in high demand in the future. They were happy middlemen who earned the price difference. Lin Yuan did not agree to trade with these group members for the flower brocade pearls they needed, since Lin Yuan wanted to stabilize the strength of the group's network. The best way was to hold a group welfare auction every once in a while. Things were rare, and satisfying only one mouth at a time was the best choice to deal with these scarce resources. Lin Yuan winked at Lu Jia, who was at the side, and motioned for him to leave with him later. Then, Lin Yuan said to the bigwigs beside him, "Let's go." Sob sob sob, these were the words Button wrote with his cell phone in the hospital. Happy New Year. I also wish everyone good health in the new year. End of this chapter. Chapter 425. If there's anything, you can at me in the group or send me a private message. The group welfare will be available every once in a while. I hope everyone will bid rationally. At that moment, a tall woman standing beside Lin Yuan spoke in a flirtatious manner. Group owner, don't tell me your group welfare will always be the flower brocade pearls? If that's the case, it'll be very boring. When the woman spoke, the men at the side, including Lin Yuan, all had goosebumps. Lin Yuan thought to himself, my goodness, is this the legendary saying of using coaxing to overcome hardness? Lin Yuan cleared his throat and said seriously, since you're bored, let's change it up. The next group welfare will be 10 heavenly maiden grade elemental pearls produced by the scorching elemental shellfish. After saying that, Lin Yuan and Lu Jia looked at each other and left the Star Web store together. The flirtatious, tall woman had a look of astonishment on her face. Was she being molested by someone? There's actually someone who dares to tease me. I'm a woman who's cursed 32 husbands, 16 boyfriends, 27 male best friends, and 81 dubious partners to death. Lin Yuan's words caused the big shots in the purchase with no loss store to burst into an uproar. The next group welfare was actually 10 heavenly maiden grade elemental pearls. These 10 heavenly maiden grade elemental pearls were all fire type elemental pearls produced by the scorching elemental shellfish. However, among the elemental pearls of any attribute of the same purity could be exchanged. As long as one posted the news on Star Web, it was very easy to find the next one. The heavenly maiden grade elemental pearls and the flower brocade pearls were not on the same level. They did not expect to have such an unexpected gain by blocking the group owner in the Star Web store. It seemed that blocking the group owner when there was nothing to do was very beneficial to improving the group welfare. At the same time, many people thought of Lin Yuan's rational bidding and cursed in their hearts. Easy for him to say. One heavenly maiden grade elemental pearl is enough to make people go crazy. How can we be rational when we take out 10 at once? If we can be rational when facing 10 heavenly maiden grade elemental pearls, then we will be too irrational. In a short while, all the big shots in the purchase with no loss store left. When they left, all of them were rubbing their palms together. Clearly, they were determined to obtain the 10 heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls. Freezing Cold was left alone in the shop, weak and pitiful, shivering helplessly. After Lin left the star web, he began to ponder. Given the reputation of his purchase with no loss store, it was still a little difficult for him to implement the white-cloaked follower plan and recruit king-class experts. This was also why Lin Yuan was willing to take out 10 heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls as group welfare. He was doing this to let this matter spread to Star Web and increase the reputation of his purchase with no loss store. He was also unwilling to sell the heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls on Star Web through blind trading like the flower brocade pearls. The blind trade was just a threshold for him to enter his purchase with no loss store's fan club. After all, one had to pick the big ones to harvest. Only then would it feel good to harvest them. On a huge island that was hit by the waves, even in broad daylight, there was a kind of bright brilliance rising up. This bright brilliance came from the island's land, which was covered with gems of various colors. 8 tall towers with different postures stood on this land paved with gems of various colors. In front of each steeple, 32 chanters knelt on the ground and chanted softly. In front of each of the 32 chanters, there was a leader who was leading them in singing a pious song. The 8 steeples with different postures each had a bridge at the top. The place where the 8 bridge locks converged was a floating garden in the air. There were all kinds of strange-shaped wax figures in the floating garden. These wax figures were not complete and were all a little incomplete. Some wax figures were even completely broken. However, these wax figures seemed to contain some kind of law. Most of the wax figures were fays. Of course, there were also a few humans. Beside each wax figure was a small fountain. The clear water sprayed out from the fountain and landed on the wax figures, making the wax figures' color and luster more vivid. When these wax figures' color and luster became vivid, that kind of law aura became a little more intense. The law in the wax figures only became more intense for a moment, and it seemed as though these law aura were stripped from these wax figures into the clear water sprays. The clear water fell back into the fountain, and the cycle repeated. In the middle of the floating garden was a huge round table. 8 chairs were placed beside the round table, and they were arranged in 2 rows, sitting on an equal footing. At that moment, there was a figure sitting on each chair. These 8 figures had different figures, and they all had monstrous might. However, the might of these 7 figures had all landed on one of them. The person who was being pointed at had long golden hair that hung down to her shoulders. Her eyes were tightly shut, and she had a solemn expression. All of a sudden, the golden-haired woman's tightly shut eyes opened, revealing the golden pupils inside. There seemed to be war after war going on in the golden pupils. The glory and crushing defeat in the war did not shock the golden-haired woman's golden pupils at all. The golden pupils looked at the other 7 figures without the slightest emotion, and a pitiful and mocking voice echoed. All of you made a decision together, and it is just my Tower of War's implementation plan. Speaking of Cheng Wu, this spy in the Radiance Federation was planted by 3rd page Eternal Sin. Not only was it useless, but it also alerted the enemy and ruined my plan. As soon as 7th page War's voice fell, a few sickly laughter rang out. He, 7th page War. Cheng Wu's identity being exposed has nothing to do with me. Don't drag me into this. The person who spoke was a short-haired woman with empty eyes. However, the occasional glint in her empty eye sockets seemed to contain all the sins in the world. 7th page War glanced at the short-haired woman, ignored her words, and said, "The Radiance Federation's sacred source life form. I'll take back the Radiance Federation's sacred source life form immediately." The short-haired woman with empty eyes was about to say something when she heard a pleasant voice coming from the side. It was just that this Jing Taiyin came from a huge lump of strange flesh and blood. "Sister 3rd page, your mouth stinks. Baby, I can smell it sitting here. Will you die if you don't target others?" The harsh words spoken by this purest voice were like the truth, convincing from the bottom of one's heart. The evil glint in the short-haired woman's empty eye sockets kept flickering as she laughed coquettishly. Second update. Happy New Year to everyone again. It's the new year, and I wanted to post more updates take over the hospital when Button is discharged. I will give everyone a wave of updates that will not be inferior to the previous one. Last update heart. End of this chapter. Chapter 426. He. 5th page truth. You wrap yourself in a layer of rotten meat all day long. Can you still smell the stench? Why don't you let me make this rotten meat into a small black house that will lock you up forever? As she spoke, the short-haired woman's face became ferocious, making her delicate facial features become terrifying. At that moment, a light cough made 3rd page eternal sin and 5th page truth immediately turn serious. A girl wearing thick glasses and looking like a girl next door stood up and said as if she was singing. In the Radiance Federation, the life parasitized by my Gardner konjac seeds can cooperate with 7th page war's operation. 7th page war's voice was mixed with pity and mockery, tinged with a hint of disgust. 2nd page revival, I don't need you to cooperate with me. The girl next door girl looked at 7th page war with some grievance, and the tone of her chant suddenly changed to become like a mournful song. I'm also afraid that 7th page war's Warnell and Radiance chariot will be cracked again by the Moon Empress. At that point, the girl next door girl seemed to have a sudden realization. Oh, I forgot. 7th page war's sacred source lifeforms, Warnell and Radiance chariot, have evolved. Then 7th page war will take back the Radiance Federation's sacred source lifeform alone. After saying that, 2nd page revival changed the topic. He looked at the cold man sitting next to 3rd page eternal sin, who was twisting like a snake. The laws and the 300 wax figures in the sky garden have been washed clean by the baptism spring. The materials for a new batch of wax figures have also been prepared. 8th page death, make a new batch of wax figures as soon as possible. The cold man, who was twisting like a snake, shrugged and revealed a neurotic smile on his face. However, he did not laugh. His mouth was wide open, and he silently said, okay. Lin Yuan was sitting on the water rhinoceros leather sofa in the hall, flipping through his phone. He was going to enter Star Web to check his gains from the blind trade later, as well as the 30-flower brocade pearls auction in the group welfare. Lin Yuan opened the offline forum on his phone, which he had not been on for a long time. The idiotic netizen who found that he had been bitten by the ghost shadow bristled spider sent him a message again. A person like you will definitely fail the Fey observation and spiritual ingredient analysis exams. Lin Yuan curled his lips when he saw this message. What exactly did I send last time? How could he encounter such a vicious curse? Lin Yuan tried to recall and realized that he could not remember at all. However, Lin Yuan wasn't convinced when it came to cheating. When Lin Yuan had taken the Creation Master exam, he had scored 100 points in the Fey observation and spiritual ingredient analysis exams. Although he had relied on Genius back then, he now often wore Genius tool transformation mask and shared the knowledge that Genius had learned. He had already faintly integrated that knowledge. Therefore, it was impossible for him to fail the spiritual ingredient analysis and Fey observation exams. During this period, he was also frantically learning some knowledge that high-class creation masters needed to master. Lin Yuan had deliberately cultivated his learning habit. No matter how busy he was, he had to learn something new every day. This was because the knowledge that he had learned would become knowledge after being stored in his mind for a long time. Lin Yuan thought for a moment and replied to the idiotic netizen who had been bitten by the ghost shadow bristled spider. Even if I don't know anything about spiritual ingredient analysis and Fey observation, I can still pass. In just a moment, the netizen who had been bitten by the ghost shadow bristled spider replied. How is that possible? You're just guessing. When Lin Yuan saw the message, he replied. In any case, be it spiritual ingredient analysis or Fey observation, the multiple choice questions are 60 points. My ears are good, and I can hear other people's multiple choice answers. Then how did you hear the answer to the multiple choice question? How do I choose ABCD? Lin Yuan didn't even think about it before replying. A is 3 strokes, C is 1 stroke, B and D are both 2 strokes, but D will be faster than B. After Lin Yuan sent the message, he noticed that the netizen who had been bitten by the ghost shadow bristled spider had sent 6 points and replied, "I'll try it during the next exam." After saying that, he no longer paid any attention to her. Lin Yuan was a little dumbfounded that someone actually believed such words. If you can hear the sound of one person writing among so many others in the examination room, you will be able to hear the sound of one person writing. Then you'd be an immortal. Moreover, even if you could hear it clearly, what if your brother in front of you got all the multiple choice questions wrong? That would really be a tragedy. He could imagine that the netizen who had been bitten by the ghost shadow bristled spider would scold him in the future. Therefore, he decided to blacklist the netizen who had been bitten by the ghost shadow bristled spider. Lin Yuan felt that he was simply too smart. He had taken precautions. At this time, in a big house, a short-haired girl was holding a pen and writing in a small notebook. A is 3 strokes, C is 1 stroke, B and D are both 2 strokes, D is faster than B. After she finished writing, the short-haired girl felt that the spiritual material analysis and spiritual material observation courses, which she had been seriously reviewing, were a bit of an eyesore. At this moment, someone knocked on the door. The short-haired girl was about to open the door when she saw a head poking in. The short-haired girl said angrily, "Dad, why are you monitoring my studies again?" The middle-aged man was holding a few pieces of clothes in his hand and said with some grievance, "Baby, your mom asked me to take you out for dinner. How could I possibly monitor your studies? Monitoring your studies is your mom's job. I'm only responsible for earning money to support the family." The short-haired girl couldn't help but roll her eyes. "I get scolded by my mom 800 times a year, and at least 750 of those times are because you snitched on me." The middle-aged man quickly said righteously, "Don't talk nonsense. Out of the 800 times you get scolded this year, 60 of those times are because you didn't wear a headgear in front of your mom. I'm not snitching on you." When the short-haired girl saw the bumblebee headgear in the middle-aged man's hand, she immediately pointed at her short hair in exasperation. "Dad, the ghost shadow bristled spider's venom has long been detoxified, and my hair has grown out. I'm not bald, so don't give me a headgear." At this point, the short-haired girl suddenly said in a mysterious tone, "Dad, I remember that you need heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls, right? I can get them, but you have to promise me that you won't snitch on me to my mom again." When the middle-aged man heard that, he couldn't help but say with a smile, "Baby is the best. Baby is the best. Daddy is happy that baby has this kind of heart." The short-haired girl felt very helpless. "Dad, I'm already 16 years old. I'm no longer a child." The middle-aged man said lovingly as he tidied up the books on the table. "Baby, you've grown up. You know how to make Dad happy." At this moment, the short-haired girl only felt that it would have been better if she had been bitten to death by the ghost shadow bristled spider. She wouldn't have had to suffer this anger. First chapter. Happy first day. End of this chapter. Chapter 427. Lin Yuan logged onto Star Web and checked the gains from the blind trade of the 10-flower brocade pearls. Even though Lin Yuan had already expected it, he was still taken aback at first glance. The number of mid-grade strange flames obtained from the blind trade of the 10-flower brocade pearls had reached 440. Previously, Lin Yuan had used 10-flower brocade pearls to exchange for 100 mid-grade strange flames, which was higher than the market price. But now, the price of the flower brocade pearls was more than 4 times higher than the original market price. This made Lin Yuan feel like he had harvested ginseng from the leeks. In his Star Web store, Lin Yuan deliberately spread the news that the next fan group welfare was 10 heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls. At that time, the blind trade had just begun. It was unknown how many of the 440 mid-grade strange flames had been attracted by the heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls. After the blind trade ended, another 10 bigwigs entered Lin Yuan's fan group. The addition of the new members made the purchase with no loss fan group even livelier. The 30 flower brocade pearls in the group welfare had also allowed Lin Yuan to harvest a lot of precious resources. The resources that Lin Yuan needed to build his faction Sky City could not be so simple. The resources that Lin Yuan had obtained through the group welfare auction allowed him to have an abundance of precious resources in his hands. Every time the bigwigs increased the price, it was equivalent to a screening. After several rounds of price increases, they could ensure that the resources in Lin Yuan's hands were absolutely high quality. Lin Yuan planned to store these resources in the platinum phase storage box. They would wait until the floating island whale hatched in June of this year in preparation for building a sky city on its back. Lin Yuan quietly displayed the 10 heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls produced by the scorching elemental shellfish in his fan group. He planned to choose a time to auction these 10 heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls as group welfare. It was also considered fulfilling his promise. Then, Lin Yuan logged out of Star Web. After logging out of Star Web, Lin Yuan wore the glasses that Genius Tool Transformation had transformed into as usual. He started to read books about creation masters. Wearing Genius Tool Transformation glasses to read, Lin Yuan could clearly imprint the knowledge in his mind. Even if Lin Yuan wore Genius Tool Transformation glasses, he still could not reach the level of Genius Photographic Memory. However, Lin Yuan only needed to read it 3 times and could generally remember it. As he read, Lin Yuan seemed to have an epiphany in his mind that became clearer and clearer. It seemed that all the knowledge in this epiphany was closely related. However, just as this comprehension became clearer and clearer, Lin Yuan found that there was a faint membrane on this layer of comprehension. No matter what he did, he could not break it. Lin Yuan did not feel sad because he could not break through the outer membrane of this comprehension. Lin Yuan was very happy. According to the increasingly clear comprehension in his heart, if this comprehension condensed into a willpower rune, it should be related to knowledge. For several days, Lin Yuan had locked himself in his room to read. For the next few days, Lin Yuan locked himself in his room and flipped through books. However, the comprehension in his mind was still stagnant. This also made him give up the intention to continue burying his head in the book in the house. Lin had God's Soul Lin Yuan, Dragon, and had Mountain Pearls. You had Star had Herring Dragon. The Dragon had Pearls had Star had Jade. The listening Herring Dragon Chamber of Commerce had become an empty shelf. Listen was still not in a hurry to make any big moves. Instead, he was going to accumulate some items made of completely jade-textured powder and directly reshape the listening Herring Dragon Chamber of Commerce's business direction. At the same time, Listen was also using Fei Qianxiong as a spy. He planned to devour the online and offline resources that the Iron Arm Chamber of Commerce had given up bit by bit. If a Chamber of Commerce wanted to develop to the extreme, the best way was to set foot in every field. It had intertwined in various fields and formed a huge business empire. Zhou Luo had also come to the royal capital in the past few days. He had sworn a willpower rune to Lin Yuan, issued an allegiance oath, and become Lin Yuan's servant. At the same time, after Lin Yuan poured 5 heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls into it, the iron bone iguana's second head finally grew out. The iron bone iguana's new head was fire type. The new head directly activated the fire type energy in the iron bone iguana's body, which was originally earth type. The fire type and earth type energy fused and turned into scorching lava. The iron bone iguana also mutated into a lava iguana under such elemental fusion. Lin Yuan also contracted the bronze/epic lizard species Fei, the dark snake dragon lizard, that had awakened the dragon species bloodline, for Zhou Luo. There were only a few days left before the active phase of the dimensional rift. Therefore, Lin Yuan felt that it was time to go to Indigo Azure City to see what tricks the Jing family had in the offshore coastal resources that they wanted to seize from the listening Herring Chamber of Commerce. Lin Yuan did not intend to let Endless Summer follow him to Indigo Azure City this time. He only intended to bring Lu Jia, the mother of Bloodbath, and the recruited Zhou Luo, as well as Listen, to investigate. However, when Lin Yuan found out that Endless Summer had killed a pinnacle king-class expert while protecting Listen, Lin Yuan decided that it would be safer to bring Endless Summer on this trip to Indigo Azure City in addition to his path protector, the Mother of Bloodbath. After all, Indigo Azure City was the Zheng family's base camp. Early the next morning, Lin Yuan ordered a platinum flying fae, the long-backed swan. Lin Yuan originally wanted to order a divine travel black swallow. Although it was very uncomfortable to fly on the divine travel black swallow, it was much faster than the long-backed swan. However, the divine travel black swallow was a petite flying fae that could only carry 2 people at most. This time, Lin Yuan's group of 6 needed a larger flying fae. Therefore, Lin Yuan chose the long-backed swan that balanced speed and comfort. On the back of the long-backed swan, Lin Yuan, Lu Jie, the Mother of Bloodbath, Endless Summer, and Listen sat cross-legged. Zhou Luo stood respectfully at the side, guarding the 5 people who were sitting cross-legged like a guard. Listen told Lin Yuan about the recent news he had obtained about Indigo Azure City. I recently found someone to check the shallow nearshore sea in Indigo Azure City that I had never paid attention to before. As a result, I lost contact with the 2 experts I sent. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan frowned slightly and asked, "What's the strength of the 2 experts you sent?" "What are the strength of the 2 experts you sent?" Listen said with a bitter smile. "Currently, the strongest combat power in the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce is Fei Qinxiong, but I don't want to use him as a spy. Therefore, I sent 2 Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce experts with platinum fays. After sending them out, they only reported to me once, and there was no more news. I'm guessing they're already dead." Lin Yuan knew that the shallow sea controlled by the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce in Indigo Azure City was not safe. If he did not use his trump cards, his strength should actually be similar to the 2 Spirit Chi professionals with platinum fays that Listen had sent out. 2 Spirit Chi professionals with platinum fays went to the shallow sea to scout for information without going deep into the sea. It was impossible for him to have been attacked by a marine fae. Therefore, most of the 2 Spirit Chi professionals with platinum fays had died at the hands of other Spirit Chi professionals. At that moment, Lin Yuan heard Listen speak again. "Young master, the first message they sent me said that there are broken corpses of gold water world dimensional creatures on the coast. I think there should be a water world dimensional rift near this coastal sea." Lin Yuan had always needed the flesh of gold water world dimensional lifeforms. However, after hearing Listen's news, Lin Yuan was not happy at all. Instead, his brows furrowed even more. Lin Yuan said in a deep voice, "It doesn't matter if this shallow nearshore sea is a dragon's pool or a tiger's den, or if someone is coveting it. I want to see what's hidden in it. Second update. Happy first day, hee hee. On the 26th, I'll record the top 30 fans. Add the top 30 fans to the book group. In order to thank everyone for their support, there will be small gifts. Hee hee." End of this chapter. Chapter 428. Lin Yuan was very puzzled at that moment. How could the broken corpses of gold water world dimensional lifeforms appear on the shore? After the water world dimensional creatures died, their flesh would quickly rot and sink to the bottom of the sea. The marine phase in the sea didn't only consist of animal-type marine phase, but there were also plant-type and insect-type marine phase. After the flesh and blood of the water world dimensional creatures rotted, it was extremely stinky and poisonous. Most of the marine phase did not like to eat animal phase. However, the flesh of these dead and decayed water world dimensional lifeforms was a gluttonous feast for the plant species and insect species phase among the marine phase. Therefore, it was very unusual for the flesh of these gold water world dimensional creatures to be discovered on the shore. The only possibility that Lin Yuan could think of was that the gold water world dimensional life form had been killed very close to the shore. The sudden bombardment left the flesh and blood of the gold water world dimensional creature's body with extremely strong cell activity. The flesh of the gold water world dimensional lifeforms with extremely strong cellular activity was washed to the shore by the waves. It was also coincidentally discovered by the 2 Spirit Chi professionals with platinum phase that Listen had sent out. At the time of discovery, the cell activity in the flesh and blood of these gold water world dimensional creatures had completely disappeared. Corruption had begun, but it was not yet complete. He had personally witnessed the decaying speed of the water world dimensional lifeform's flesh. When the two spirit chi professionals with platinum phase that Listen had sent out saw the gold water world dimensional lifeform's flesh on the shore, they felt a chill down their spines. This gold water world dimensional creature should have just died. The marine phase in the coastal waters were weaker, and it was very difficult to completely block the water world dimensional rift. Therefore, the water world dimensional creatures would attack the cities on the shore. This required the spirit chi professionals living near the coastal sea to take action against the water world dimensional lifeforms that were wreaking havoc on the shore. However, what puzzled Lin Yuan the most was that the people in Indigo Azure City did not notice the water world dimensional rift at all. Lin Yuan pondered for a moment and asked Listen. Are there many fays that can effectively resist the water world dimensional rift in this coastal sea controlled by the listening heron chamber of commerce? Did any water world dimensional creatures attack the shore previously? Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Listen immediately answered. Back then, my grandfather and father chose to use all of the listening heron chamber of commerce's resources to control this shallow nearshore sea because there are many shellfish fays in this shallow nearshore sea. The shells, flesh, and pearls contained in shellfish fays are all excellent resources. Shellfish fays don't have strong offensive abilities. Due to the large number of shellfish fays, the plankton in the water are all plundered by them. Therefore, most of the marine fays in this sea region rely on shellfish fays to survive. Among them, the beaked spiny skin fish and the shell-eating armored turtles are the most numerous. However, the beak-billed spiny skin fish and the shell-eating armored turtles are only ferocious to the shell fays. They can only be hunted by the water world dimensional creatures. However, due to the large number of beaked spiny fish, there is also a large school of tail-cutting shadow sharks that feed on the beaked spiny fish. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan knew that this coastal sea could be said to be very dangerous. However, this coastal sea was destined to be unable to effectively resist the emergence of the fays in the water world dimensional rift. The tail-cutting shadow sharks were a very special group of ferocious fays in the sea. The existence of the tail-cutting shadow sharks meant that there would be no large predators in this sea region. This was because the tail-cutting shadow sharks would take the lead in eliminating all life that could pose a threat to them in their territory. If there were tail-cutting shadow sharks in this sea region, there would still be large predators. That meant that this group of tail-cutting shadow sharks had been killed by the large predators. There was only one school of tail-cutting shadow sharks in the sea, even if they were individually strong. Even if the tail-cutting shadow sharks were extremely strong, due to their limited numbers, the suppression on a large number of water world dimensional creatures was too small. Even if these tail-cutting shadow sharks went crazy, they would not be able to eliminate less than half of the water world dimensional creatures. At that moment, Lin Yuan heard Listen continue to speak. In the early years, water world dimensional creatures would invade this coastal sea once or twice a month, Lin Yun said with a smile. As long as the water world dimensional rift opens, this coastal sea is destined to not be peaceful. At this point, Listen's tone became extremely solemn. However, 3 years ago, there have been no water world dimensional creatures invading this coastal sea. After listening to Listen's words, Lin Yuan felt that everything had become even stranger. Lin Yuan thought for a long time but could not figure it out. It seemed that he had to go to the coastal sea controlled by the listening heron chamber of commerce to have a good exploration. Only then would he know what secrets were hidden in this coastal sea. Lin Yuan looked at the mother of Bloodbath and Endless Summer. Endless Summer, mother of Bloodbath, the two of you will hide in the dark when we arrive at Indigo Azure City. If no one is in danger, you don't have to make a move. Lin Yuan knew that the two spirit chi professionals with platinum phase that Listen had sent out had died. He felt that the Jing family was not the only one eyeing the listening heron chamber of commerce's shallow coastal sea. The Jing family had already sent people to the royal capital to attack the listening heron chamber of commerce and had even sent pinnacle king-class experts to kill Listen. This showed that the Jing family was determined to obtain the listening heron chamber of commerce's shallow coastal sea. There was no need for the Jing family to kill these two spirit chi professionals who had been investigating the listening heron chamber of commerce's shallow coastal sea. These two spirit chi professionals with platinum phase had most likely investigated a secret that absolutely could not be known by others. They wanted to kill the two spirit chi professionals with platinum phase and not let them have a chance to convey the news to listen. This was at least at Fei Qinxiong's level. The Jing family was in the light, while Lin Yuan was in the dark. The Jing family might be strong in the light. However, the Jing family was Lin Yuan's visible enemy. Often, the enemy in the dark was the most terrifying. Just like young Master Zheng in the royal capital, who had lost news of a pinnacle king-class expert. He would probably not be able to sleep well during this period. What made Lin Yuan feel a little troublesome now was that besides the Jing family, there was really someone watching the listening heron chamber of commerce's shallow coastal sea in the dark. In that case, the enemy in the dark was an unknown hidden danger. After the Jing family had attacked the listening heron chamber of commerce, this hidden force still had designs on this shallow coastal sea. This meant that this hidden force definitely had the confidence to contend with the Jing family. The listening heron chamber of commerce's shallow coastal sea did not have legs and could not run. Without the support of absolute strength, it was simply impossible to snatch food from the Jing family's mouth. First more, end of this chapter. Chapter 429. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, the mother of Bloodbath replied. If we encounter an Emperor-class expert sneak attack, it will be very difficult to stop them immediately while hiding in the dark. Big Sister Summer is not good at concealment, so let Big Sister Summer hide in the dark. Although the law I control is blood, my race and exclusive skill are extremely good at concealment. Even if I am beside you, Emperor-class experts will not discover me. After hearing the mother of Bloodbath's words, Endless Summer fiddled with the bell hidden in the pink and purple hydrangea on the bracelet and said, Little Sister Blood and I will stay close and far away. Little Sister Shui and I will stay close and one from afar. Little Sister Shui will protect your safety. While I am watching you from a distance, I will also see how many eyes are watching you in the dark. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan nodded. When the mother of Bloodbath saw Lin Yuan nod, the corners of its originally expressionless mouth hooked into a happy arc relying on the Path Protector contract between it and Lin Yuan. It spoke in Lin Yuan's mind in a voice that only he could hear. I am your Path Protector. Your safety is the top priority. Lin Yuan's heart warmed when he heard the mother of Bloodbath's words. In fact, during this period of time, Lin Yuan had almost forgotten that the mother of Bloodbath was his Path Protector. However, the mother of Bloodbath had been silently fulfilling its duty as a Path Protector. At that moment, the mother of Bloodbath on the long-backed swan's back flashed with a scarlet luster. Looking at this scarlet luster, it only felt as though they were looking at a sticky pool of blood. Everyone could clearly feel the long-backed swan trembling faintly, obviously terrified to the extreme. If Endless Summer had not used its aura to control the long-backed swan when the mother of Bloodbath had transformed, the long-backed swan would probably have fallen to the ground in fear from the mother of Bloodbath's aura. The mother of Bloodbath was a type of tarantula that could suppress the long-backed swan in terms of rank. Apart from rank suppression, it also had a kind of racial deterrence. The mother of Bloodbath shrank to the size of 1 centimeter, just like when it had first become Lin Yuan's Path Protector. However, the mother of Bloodbath did not land on the leaf-shaped diamond face storage box hanging on Lin Yuan's chest. Instead, it landed in Lin Yuan's hair and hid there. Lin Yuan, Lu Jia, Endless Summer, and Listen already knew that the mother of Bloodbath was a suzerain/myth breed fae. Only Zhou Luo, who was on the long-backed swan's back, did not know the mother of Bloodbath's identity. Now, Zhou Luo saw the mother of Bloodbath turn from human form into a scarlet spider and hide in Lin Yuan's hair. His eyes immediately widened and he gulped down a mouthful of saliva as he sighed inwardly. How many sacrifices did he have to make to have the opportunity to join such a strong force? This was at least a legendary suzerain/myth 2 fae, and it was actually right beside him. Moreover, according to the conversation between the spider-like woman and the abnormally gentle woman, Lin Fan had a strange feeling. Zhou Luo wasn't sure if the other woman was a spirit creature, but she was definitely an emperor-grade spirit creature. While Zhou Luo was still in shock, he hadn't expected to be called out by Lin Yuan. "Zhou Luo, you don't have to move with us after we reach Indigo Azure City." When Zhou Luo heard Lin Yuan's words, he immediately put away his shock and prepared to listen to Lin Yuan's instructions. At the same time, Zhou Luo was ready to face danger. When he issued the loyalty oath and made the servant oath, Zhou Luo knew that his life no longer belonged to him when he obtained resources. But immediately afterward, Lin Yuan's words gave Zhou Luo an indescribable feeling. After your iron bone iguana used 5 heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls produced by the scorching elemental shellfish, it grew a second head and mutated into a lava iguana. When it mutated into a lava iguana, its grade also increased from Platinum 9 to Platinum X. I think the lava iguana's dragon species bloodline is only one flawless dragon's mouth orchid flower away from being stimulated. I happen to have one here. Take it and let the lava iguana stimulate the dragon species bloodline in its body. Lin Yuan had used the 30 flower brocade pearls to exchange for 2 flawless dragon's mouth orchid flowers in the purchase with No Loss Stores fan club. Flawless dragon's mouth orchid flowers were not considered very rare on the market. They could be auctioned off in the Star Web Rare Lifeform Pavilion for nearly 1 million radiance dollars. After giving Zhou Luo the flawless dragon's mouth orchid flowers, the lava iguana had a high chance of breaking through its grade limit when it stimulated the dragon species bloodline in its body. It would increase its grade from Platinum X to Diamond I. This increase in grade would allow the lava iguana to become a diamond/fantasy breed fae. It was tantamount to letting Zhou Luo step from the level of a low-level king-class expert to the level of a middle-level king-class expert. This way, Zhou Luo would be able to complete the mission better. But to be honest, if Lin Yuan only had that epic dragon's mouth orchid flower, he wouldn't have been able to kill it. Lin Yuan really would not let Zhou Luo use this epic dragon's mouth orchid flower. The epic dragon's mouth orchid flower was already the top dragon's mouth orchid flower that had appeared on the market. This kind of thing could not be bought with radiance dollars. Lin Yuan was more inclined to let the white-clothed servants obtain resources on their own when nurturing them. Otherwise, Lin Yuan would throw all the resources at these white-clothed servants to improve their strength. It was not that Lin Yuan could not afford it. In that case, Lin Yuan might as well change his name from Lin Yuan to Big Head Lin. Lin Yuan would not do something that was completely disproportionate between the effort and the reward. However, resources like the flawless dragon's mouth orchid were harmless to him. Although the flawless dragon's mouth orchid was harmless to Lin Yuan, it made Zhou Luo feel moved like a raging wave in his heart. Previously, Lin Yuan had invested the bronze/epic dark snake dragon lizard and 5 heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls. Although Zhou Luo was grateful, he was not moved. This was because Zhou Luo had exchanged such resources with a servant oath. However, the flawless dragon's mouth orchid was not. In the past, Zhou Luo would need to accumulate 2 years to accumulate this flawless dragon's mouth orchid. Now that the iron bone iguana had mutated into a lava iguana, Zhou Luo's strength had improved. In Zhou Luo's opinion, he would need at least 8 months to earn the money for the flawless dragon's mouth orchid. But now, the organization that he had devoted all of his loyalty to had given him such a gift before he had even contributed to his first mission. This made Zhou Luo feel even more grateful. Lin Yuan said as he looked at Listen. "Listen, how do you think the Zheng family's young master Zheng will feel if he finds out that you suddenly returned to the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's old mansion in Indigo Azure City?" The second chapter. Everyone, please wear a mask and take care of your body. End of chapter. Chapter 430. When Listen heard Lin Yuan's words, he frowned slightly and pondered. After thinking for a while, Listen suddenly laughed and said, "The Zheng family is a veteran faction. As one of the 3 major factions in Indigo Azure City, it can be said that they can cover the sky with one hand. If I'm the Zheng family's young master Zheng, then I suddenly find that the target I want to kill has returned to Indigo Azure City from the royal capital alive. Even if the Zheng family can confirm that the Pinnacle King-class expert they sent is dead, they will at most suspect that this Pinnacle King-class expert's death is related to me and cannot be sure. The Zheng family is determined to get the resources of the shallow coastal sea, so they should send another expert to kill me. Lin Yuan heard Listen's words and asked. Then what kind of expert do you think the Zheng family will send to make a move on you? In Lin Yuan's opinion, the Zheng family would definitely send an expert to make a move on Listen. However, the main purpose was not to kill Listen immediately. Instead, it was to prove whether the death of the Pinnacle King-class expert they had sent was related to Listen. To put it bluntly, this was a kind of test. To be able to silently kill a Pinnacle King-class expert with a Diamond X/Fantasy 4 Fae, this person had at least the combat power of an Emperor-class expert. Among the veteran factions, no veteran faction would casually send out an Emperor-class expert. Before the Zheng family could determine the strength of the Emperor-class expert who had killed the Pinnacle King-class expert, the Zheng family would definitely not let their Emperor-class expert easily take risks. The loss of a Pinnacle King-class expert must have been very painful for the Zheng family. Therefore, in Lin Yuan's opinion, the strength of the King-class expert sent by the Zheng family should not be too strong. At most, it would be at Fei Qianxiong's level. In this test, the Zheng family must have been prepared to lose a King-class expert. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's question, Listen answered. It should be either a King-class or an Emperor-class expert. The possibility of a King-class expert is higher. After saying that, Listen paused for a moment before continuing. But I know that young master won't let the Zheng family kill me anyway. Lin Yuan raised his brows and said, That's natural. Of course. Not to mention how much resources Lin Yuan had invested in Listen. If Listen was killed by the Zheng family, then Lin Yuan's previous efforts would be in vain. Moreover, Listen had issued an allegiance oath to Lin Yuan, so he was a part of Lin Yuan's faction. Lin Yuan would not allow the Zheng family to lay their hands on the members of his faction. Listen, since you've returned to Indigo Azure City from the royal capital, you naturally have to return to the old mansion. After speaking to Listen, he turned to Endless Summer, who was sitting cross-legged beside him. Endless Summer, when Listen returns to the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's old mansion, just like when you were in the royal capital, protect him in secret. Endless Summer nodded in response. Endless Summer raised her fair hand and shook the diamond face storage box hanging on her wrist as she said, All right, let's go. There are still 2 corpses of high-grade dark-type Faes here. I'll let Little Sister Blood do the work and split up the spiritual ingredients. Upon hearing Endless Summer's words, Lin Yuan recalled how the Mother of Bloodbath had split the Pinnacle Suzerain/Myth 2 Crow's corpse. Not a single bit of it was wasted. The Mother of Bloodbath pondered for a moment and said, Since they are 2 high-grade dark-type fantasy breed Faes, their willpower should be stronger. When I return to the Imperial City, I'll carefully divide it again and see if I can use the blood rules to control the blood. Stimulate the cell activity of these 2 high-grade dark-type fantasy breed Faes and preserve the willpower in their minds as much as possible. Riding the wind, he got closer and closer to Indigo Azure City. Slowly, Lin Yuan felt that the surrounding temperature was much higher than when he was in the royal capital. The air on the sea also carried a faint saltiness of the sea breeze. On the back of the platinum longback swan, Lin Yuan could already faintly see the outline of Indigo Azure City. Indigo Azure City was a huge coastal city. Even though Lin Yuan was high in the sky, he could only see 1/10 or 2/10 of this huge city. Lin Yuan flipped his hand, and a palm-sized light blue dragon-tongue-shaped flower appeared. Lin Yuan said as he handed the flawless dragon's mouth orchid to Zhou Luo. Let your lava iguana complete its evolution first, then wait for me to contact you. After saying that, he pondered for a while and took out a tube of dark gold blood. Take this tube of diamond dragon species Fey blood too. If the flawless dragon's mouth orchid can't stimulate the lava iguana's dragon species bloodline, this tube of diamond dragon species Fey blood should have a supportive effect. The activation of the dragon species bloodline by a fae would occasionally be accompanied by some unknown changes. Lin Yuan gave Zhou Luo an extra tube of diamond dragon species fae blood, which could be considered a precaution. Zhou Luo said as he accepted Lin Yuan's gift. Young master, one day is enough for the lava iguana to awaken its dragon-type bloodline and advance. If you don't contact me after that, I'll go to the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's coastal sea to inquire about the news. Lin Yuan suddenly realized that Zhou Luo's eyes actually had a resolute emotion in this short period of time. Moreover, now that Zhou Luo knew the purpose of his trip, he took the initiative to undertake the mission. This situation showed that Zhou Luo was no longer just devoted and loyal to Lin Yuan. Alright, but since there are people secretly watching that shallow coastal sea, don't go there to ask for information and put yourself in danger. There's a guild alliance branch near that coastal sea. Go there and investigate. You should be able to gain something. In this world, apart from the true top factions that had their own information network, the Guild Alliance's information was undoubtedly the most comprehensive. After all, there were spirit chi professionals everywhere in the Guild Alliance, and many of them were local spirit chi professionals in Indigo Azure City. These local spirit chi professionals lived in Indigo Azure City all year round. Perhaps someone would know some information that was useful to him. At that moment, Listen suddenly thought of something. Young master, every 10 years before the rioting period of the Dimensional Rift, there will be a grand Indigo Azure Sea market in Indigo Azure City. Almost all the local factions and individuals in Indigo Azure City will sell the spiritual ingredients and faes they have collected in the ocean over the past 10 years at this sea market. There are many rare and strange things in the Indigo Azure Sea market. There will always be people who go to pick up the leftovers, but even class 4 creation masters will make a mistake. The first time, end of this chapter. Chapter 431. Listen paused for a moment. I believe we should be able to find the high-level marine dimensional creature flesh that young master wanted in this sea market. Lin Yuan's eyes lit up. He took out a mask engraved with the majestic Sky City pattern from the diamond face storage box and wore it. The Jing family will probably make a move on you on the night you return. Big Brother Lu and I will openly visit you at the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's old mansion the next morning. Then, you'll take us to the Indigo Azure Sea Market. As soon as he said that, the mother of Bloodbath, Endless Summer, and Lu Jie put on a strange mask with clouds carved on their faces. At that moment, Lin Yuan's eyes behind the mask revealed a sharpness that had never been revealed before. It was time for Sky City, which had never shown its brilliance, to appear before the various major powers. In a study room filled with all sorts of platinum faes and plants, Lin Yun was standing at the center of the room. A middle-aged man with malicious eyes was standing in front of the table. Suddenly, the sinister-eyed middle-aged man fiercely kicked the kneeling young man with the same sinister-eyed expression and shouted angrily. How did I, Jing Jianglu, give birth to such a stupid son? The sinister-looking youth, who was kicked by the sinister-looking middle-aged man, lowered his head and did not dare to make a sound. At this moment, the old man standing beside the sinister-looking middle-aged man looked at the sinister-looking young man on the ground with a pained expression and said, Master, Wenba already knows his mistake. Moreover, an expert who can kill old cow without causing a commotion is at least an emperor-tier expert. It's useless for you to blame Wenba. The old man's back was ramrod straight, and when he spoke, he seemed to have a cedar-like aura. Upon hearing the old man's words, the sinister-looking youth on the ground hurriedly replied. Father, listen to Grandpa Jiao. What can I do if an Emperor Realm expert attacks Elder Nyo? Besides, I asked Elder Nyo to make a move against the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's Listen because you said you had second young master support. I wanted to quickly complete the task you gave me. That's good too. Our 3 lineages' efforts over the years can finally be repaid. Jing Jianglu, the middle-aged Jing Jianglu, wanted to kick his son again when he heard that his son was so eloquent and found so many excuses. But when he heard the last part, he forcibly stopped himself. Over the past few years, the Zheng family's third lineage had been collecting resources from the coastal area of Indigo Azure City. However, they had not dared to really develop the coastal resources that they had collected. As a result, the first, second, and fourth bloodlines of the Zheng family were gradually being suppressed by the first, second, and fourth bloodlines. His son had asked Elder Nyo to make a move against the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's listen so that the three lineages could fully grasp Indigo Azure City's coastal resources as soon as possible. If it were him, he would probably do the same. However, Elder Nyo's death caused the three lineages to lose a Peak King stage powerhouse. Furthermore, Elder Nyo was a Peak King stage powerhouse who was adept at scouting. This ability was extremely useful for a faction. This kind of loss made Jing Jiangliu's heart ache more than just losing a Peak King stage combatant. Jing Jianglu glanced at his son, whose head was drooping on the ground, and snorted. Do you know the background of the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce? When Jing Wenba heard his father's question, he shook his head and said, What background does the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce have? If it really had a background, would the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce have toyed with it? Online and offline resources were swallowed without any room to retaliate. Even though Zheng Wenba had thought all the way back to Indigo Azure City from the royal capital, he did not think that Elder Nyo had died in the hands of the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. Zheng Wenba vaguely remembered that the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce's Bai Qinghu and Bai Qingxiong had told him that the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce had spread the news that he had found a backer. However, Zheng Wenba felt that the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce was bluffing. Otherwise, Bai Qinghu and Bai Qingxiong would have long suffered, and it would not have been Elder Nyo's turn. When Jing Jianglu heard his son's words, he knew that his son had really done nothing on this trip to the royal capital. The Peak King stage powerhouse accompanying him had died, but he did not even know who he had offended. This Elder Nyo had really died unjustly. The Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's listen has returned to Indigo Azure City from the royal capital. He is now in the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's old mansion. The person I sent to the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's old mansion 3 hours ago has yet to return. Listen is still alive and well. Jing Jiangliu's words made Zheng Wenba's pupils constrict. In that case, Elder Nyo had really died in the hands of the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. However, no matter how Jing Wenba thought about it, he couldn't understand why the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's listen had to endure the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce's trampling everywhere. However, all these facts were there, and Zheng Wenba had no choice but to believe it. The old man with his back ramrod straight suddenly said, Master, why don't you let me test how deep the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce is? As he spoke, the old man's cedar-like aura grew thicker. However, there was an indescribable sharpness hidden within this cedar-like aura. This sharpness was hidden in the cedar's aura, making it extremely difficult to distinguish. Jing Jianglu hurriedly said, Uncle Jiao, there's no need to trouble you with this matter. Your main Fei, the cold snow pine, is about to break through to Myth 2 and take human form. Don't let these trifling matters affect your cold snow pine's upcoming world cleansing. As Jing Jianglu spoke, the malicious light in his eyes became even brighter. When the elder heard Jing Jiangliu's words, he said, Master, if we can't take down the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's coastal sea before the Dimensional Rift riot, I'm afraid we won't be able to explain to Second Young Master. When Jing Jianglu heard the two words, Second Young Master, the malicious glint in his eyes revealed fear and calculation. Jing Jianglu said in a deep voice, Since Second Young Master wants to take half of the profits from the Third Ridge shallow coastal sea, I'm sure Second Young Master won't just stand by and watch when I'm in trouble. Lin Yuan was sitting side by side with Lu Jia in a unique guesthouse in Indigo Azure City. They ate the specialty seafood barbecue in Indigo Azure City's guesthouse. At that moment, a message notification came from his phone. Lin Yuan took a look at the phone and found that it was as he had expected. The Zheng family sent a king-class expert to assassinate Listen. There were less than 5 days before the Dimensional Rift riot period, and there wasn't much time left for Lin Yuan to explore the listening heron chamber of commerce's coastal sea. For Lin Yuan, the simplest way to explore the coastal sea controlled by the listening heron chamber of commerce was to let Red Thorn spread out the sea of flowers in this coastal sea. The sea of flowers that Red Thorn's Ortet spread out underwater was equivalent to a part of Red Thorn's body. Lin Yuan could completely use Red Thorn's sea of flowers as his eyes to explore the coastal sea. Second, more recommendation votes and monthly votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 432. However, if he wanted to explore the secrets of this shallow nearshore sea through the sea of flowers that Red Thorn had spread underwater, he would need to do so. Before that, Red Thorn would no doubt need to devour more gold water world dimensional lifeforms' flesh. The ability to let the water element breathe was inherited from Red Thorn's mother Ramets to the child Ramets. It all depended on whether he could buy the gold water world dimensional lifeforms' flesh at tomorrow's Indigo Azure Sea Market. Lin Yuan was still looking forward to tomorrow's Indigo Azure Sea Market. Before going to bed, Lin Yuan needed to gather the resources he needed to use at the Indigo Azure Sea Market. Every Indigo Azure Sea Market was the accumulation of Indigo Azure City, a giant city by the sea, for 10 years. Therefore, if there were any precious phase or rare spiritual ingredients that were useful to Lin Yuan in this Indigo Azure Sea Market, it would be awkward if he could not take out the bargaining chips. At that moment, Lin Yuan found that Lu Jia, who was eating the charcoal grilled octopus balls, was frowning more and more. After chewing and swallowing the last octopus ball on the skewer, the corners of Lu Jia's mouth twitched without a trace, revealing a look of disgust. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan hurriedly asked, "Big brother Lu, is there a problem?" Lu Jia nodded at first and then shook his head. Then, Lin Yuan heard Lu Jia say, "The store added some kelp to these octopus balls. The shop added some kelp into the octopus balls. If the kelp is boiled in water and dipped in the sauce, it will be more delicious." However, in addition to the oil on the octopus balls, the store also added some lard, which adds some fishy smell to the freshness of the kelp. Moreover, the octopus tentacles in the octopus balls are cut into 2 small pieces, so they are not chewy at all. Also, in the honey sauce of the barbecue brush, the spotted bee's honey has obviously been added with water, resulting in the honey sauce's taste not mellow enough. Lu Jia said a bunch of things, and Lin Yuan listened in a daze. This specialty guesthouse was very famous in Indigo Azure City. The specialty seafood barbecue was the signature of this guesthouse. Lin Yuan ate the specialty barbecue in the guesthouse. Although it did not feel as delicious as the meat skewers in Lu Jia's mansion, it was still passable. Lu Jia was indeed a chef. He could find so many flaws in the octopus balls with just one taste. He really had a good tongue. At that moment, Lin Yuan noticed that the lady boss's hand, which was standing not far from his table and pouring the snow clam soup for the customers at another table, paused. Clearly, the lady boss had heard Lu Jia's words, and the warm smile on her face froze. Lin Yuan didn't think there was anything wrong with the taste of the octopus balls. However, after listening to Lu Jia's review, he carefully tasted the octopus balls. Instead, Lin Yuan tasted the lard in the octopus balls. Based on his experience of eating blackback mountain boars all year round, the lard in the octopus balls was obviously from the blackback mountain boar. Lin Yuan could not help but feel that the octopus balls tasted even more delicious. After eating the specialty barbecue in the guesthouse, the lady boss smiled with a hidden dagger in her smile. Lin Yuan and Lu Jia hurriedly soaked in the hostel's hot spring and hurriedly left the lady boss's sight. Inside the guesthouse, the lady boss squinted her eyes and smiled like a weasel. Lin Yuan could not help but think of a saying. Squinting eyes is either a big shot or a monster. Lin Yuan and Lu Jia returned to their respective rooms. After returning to his room, Lin Yuan entered his spirit lock spatial zone. As soon as he entered the spirit lock spatial zone, Lin Yuan felt that he was almost blinded by the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's leaves. Nearly 600 leaves sealed with mid-grade strange flames glowed with resplendent flames. They illuminated the spirit-lock spatial zone like an illusion that existed in the aurora. Chimey was sleeping on the bird's nest surrounded by the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's leaves. The speed at which Chimey absorbed the energy in the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's nest was obviously much faster than before. The energy transmitted by the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree dyed Chimey's azure blue feathers with a beautiful layer of extreme sky light. Gray was also sleeping on the cinnabar sweet osmanthus like Chimey. Apart from eating, it had been sleeping for almost the entire day. At that moment, there was no longer a trace of gray feathers on Gray's body. White feathers were attached to its wings, and there was a touch of vermilion on its head. This touch of vermilion was even more gorgeous than the cinnabar sweet osmanthus's flowers. However, this touch of vermilion was still very light and obviously had not fully developed. Lin Yuan could not help but sigh in his heart. Gray's genetic model and second development were almost at the end. The current gray ash already had a kind of graceful and fairy-like appearance, with a graceful temperament. I wonder what Gray will look like after its genetic model is fully developed. After sorting out his spirit-lock spatial zone, Lin Yuan found that the precious resources he could take out were actually the completely jade-textured wood and the heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls. He did not intend to trade out the source-type items that he had previously traded with them. He had previously given the completely jade-textured wood to Hu Quan in the mansion. It would still take a few days for the new batch of completely jade-textured wood to mature. Therefore, what Lin Yuan could spend at will now were the 2 large brocade boxes of fire-type heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls that he had collected recently. Lin Yuan stored these 2 large brocade boxes of heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls into his amber button-shaped diamond face storage box. Then, he took out 5 fays with good aptitudes that he had previously harvested in the depths of the endless forest from the diamond face storage box. In the Indigo Azure Sea market, most of the peddlers were spirit chi professionals living in Indigo Azure City. These spirit chi professionals lived with the sea, and flying fays and aquatic fays were the most precious to them. Lin Yuan had not harvested any aquatic fays in the endless forest, but he had harvested plenty of flying-type fays. The 5 flying fays that Lin Yuan took out happened to be 5 of the same species, the wind speech sparrows. Lin Yuan had saved these 5 wind speech sparrow chicks from the mouth of a giant tree breath venomous bird. Of course, when Lin Yuan had saved these 5 wind speech sparrow chicks, he had also harvested the giant tree breath venomous bird. When Lin Yuan rescued these 5 wind speech sparrow chicks, he found that they were obviously dying of hunger. This meant that the wind speech sparrow couple had not returned to the nest for at least 2 days. When the wind speech sparrows were nurturing their chicks, they would never leave the nest too far. This meant that the 2 adult wind speech sparrows had already become food for other predators while foraging for food. When these 5 wind speech sparrow chicks saw Lin Yuan, they immediately cheered and manipulated the wind element to simulate a human-like voice. Just like how Lin Yuan heard 5, "Hello, Daddy." When Lin Yuan heard these 5, "Hello, Daddy," he touched the 5 little fellows' little heads intimately and said, "Daddy will raise your grade and quality in a while. Daddy will raise your levels and grades in a while, and then I'll sell the 5 of you for a good price." First update. Seeking recommendation votes. Monthly votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 433. It wasn't an easy task for fays to communicate with humans normally. Many fays would need to reach suzerain in order to communicate with humans normally. When the wind speech sparrow was at the normal level, it was able to use the wind to simulate sounds to communicate with humans. It was a very rare thing. Moreover, after the wind speech sparrow advanced to the bronze rank, it would evolve into a wind chain sparrow. The wind chain sparrow could control the wind element to form chains to bind and pull the target. It was considered a support-type fae with stronger control abilities. The wind chains of a high-grade wind chain sparrow could even help the contractor grab fays or spiritual ingredients from the bottom of the sea. To spirit chi professionals who made a living by the sea, it was a rare fay. If these 5 wind speech sparrows stayed with him, even if he could enhance them to bronze/epic, he would not be able to help them grow better. Thus, he found 5 good masters for them and gave them 5 suitable willpower runes for free. It could be considered as finding the best future for these 5 wind speech sparrows. He circulated the spiritual power in his body and injected a large amount of spirit chi into the 5 wind speech sparrows. The levels of these 5 wind speech sparrows continued to rise, all the way to the elite/epic grade. Lin Yuan found that it was obviously a little crowded to hold the 5 little fellows in his palm. The feathers on the 5 little fellows' bodies were not gorgeous. They were all light green in color, but there was a black top line on their backs. When the 5 wind speech sparrows broke through from elite to bronze, Lin Yuan's eyes lit up. These 5 wind speech sparrows quickly underwent a transformation. Lin Yuan saw that 4 of the 5 little fellows on his palm were still light green, but their feathers had become as hard as bone plates. Its beak and claws also became sharper. On the back of the bird, there was a row of upturned feathers. These upturned feathers were like blades that could greatly increase the speed of the wind chain sparrow. However, when one of the wind speech sparrows was promoted to the bronze level, its body suddenly turned white. Other than that, it was not much different from the other 4 wind chain sparrows. Lin Yuan knew that this wind speech sparrow had mutated when it had evolved. Lin Yuan first raised the grade and quality of these 5 little fellows to bronze X/epic. He then used Morbius True Data to check the attributes of the white wind chain sparrow. Fey name, wind net sparrow, spirit species, common bird/sparrow, Fey grade, bronze, 10/10, Fey type, wind, Fey quality, epic. After checking its attributes, he found out that this wind chain sparrow had mutated into a wind net sparrow. In Lin Yuan's opinion, he did not know if this mutation should be considered good or bad. However, if one were to weigh the pros and cons, it should be that the pros outweigh the cons usually. The wind chain sparrow could use different numbers of wind chains based on its level to control and attack. However, the wind net sparrow could throw out wind nets formed by wind chains. Although the area of effect of the wind net was larger, its strength was far inferior to the wind chain. However, the wind net sparrow was undoubtedly more practical than the wind chain sparrow when harvesting fays in the ocean. Lin Yuan chose the most suitable exclusive skill for these 4 wind chain sparrows and 1 wind net sparrow. Then, Lin Yuan dragged his hand, and the 5 little fellows flapped their wings and flew into the sky. Lin Yuan realized that these 5 little fellows were flying in the same way. Their wings were flapping so fast that Lin Yuan could only see a mass of shadows. What happened next left Lin Yuan dumbfounded. These 5 little fellows were using the wind element to simulate human voices and quarreling in the sky. Lin Yuan felt a little dizzy. Where did these 5 little fellows learn so many vulgarities? Could it be inherited from their mothers? Lin Yuan hurriedly stored these 5 little fellows in the diamond Fey storage box. Lin Yuan originally wanted to find the same buyer for these 5 little fellows so that they would not be separated. However, it now seemed that Lin Yuan felt that he had really thought too much. These 5 little fellows were not brotherly at all. He did not know how much hatred they had accumulated from snatching food in the nest. If Lin Yuan had not stopped them just now, these 5 little fellows would have already started fighting. When Lin Yuan left the Spirit Lock spatial zone, he found that the sun had risen in the Indigo Azure City's sky. He could clearly feel the humidity in this Indigo Azure City's guest house after coming out of the Spirit Lock spatial zone. However, the air had the unique salty smell of the ocean of a coastal city. Lin Yuan was about to find Lu Jie when he found that Lu Jie was already neatly dressed and standing at his door like a guard. Upon seeing Lin Yuan come out, Lu Jie handed over a cup of milkshake in his hand and said, "This milkshake is made with the Gold Mountain Prancing Antelope's antelope milk. This milkshake is made with the milk of the Gold Fay, Mountain Prancing Antelope. It has also added snow rice, which is nutritious and filling. It's much better than the seafood porridge in this guest house." I just saw that the oyster meat in the seafood porridge was at least taken out last night. It's no longer fresh. As Lu Jie spoke, Lin Yuan noticed the squint-eyed lady boss and the squint-eyed boss look at each other. Then, when the squint-eyed lady boss poured porridge for a guest, she deliberately poured a few more pieces of oyster meat. This made Lin Yuan feel a little strange. He hurriedly left the guest house with Lu Jie. Lin Yuan and Lu Jie took the flying fae to the listening heron chamber of Commerce's old mansion. At that moment, Lin Yuan and Lu Jie were both wearing strange masks made of completely jade-textured wood threads. The completely jade-textured wood threads processed from the wood-weaving house centipede's body had become a little different from the characteristics of completely jade-textured wood. Completely jade-textured wood threads would emit a faint jade-textured luster even without the contamination of spirit qi. However, the completely jade-textured threads produced from the wood-weaving house centipede's body would not have any obvious changes in an environment with a low concentration of spirit qi. When encountering a high concentration of spirit qi, the completely jade-textured threads produced from the wood-weaving house centipede's body had a stronger jade-textured luster than the completely jade-textured wood itself. At that moment, Lin Yuan suddenly heard the mother of Bloodbath's strange and pleasant voice ring in his ears. If there are any spiritual ingredients containing blood energy in the Indigo Azure Sea market, help me buy more. I'm going to break through to Myth 3 as soon as possible. Lin Yuan replied without the slightest hesitation, okay. If there are any spiritual ingredients you like in the Indigo Azure Sea market, just tell me. Lin Yuan naturally would not refuse the mother of Bloodbath's request. Lin Yuan remembered that it had not been long since the mother of Bloodbath had broken through to Myth 2. In such a short time, the mother of Bloodbath was actually preparing to break through to Myth 3. Wasn't this a little too fast? The mother of Bloodbath lurked in Lin Yuan's hair and made a decision. As Lin Yuan began to establish his own faction, the mother of Bloodbath found that its strength was still a little too weak. There was an obvious dividing line between Myth 2 and Myth 3. If it faced an enemy at Myth 3, it would only be killed. However, as Lin Yuan continued to develop his faction, there would be a day when the enemy he faced might be a pinnacle emperor-class existence. At that time, if it was still at this level, it would not be able to help Lin Yuan. It might not even be able to perform its duties as a path protector. The mother of Bloodbath had always had a secret, and that was that it could increase its strength by devouring blood energy infinitely. It was also because of this reason that the mother of Bloodbath did not stay at Diamond/Fantasy V for long. It entered Suzerain and immediately began to break through to Myth I. Such advancement had almost caused it to be turned into ashes under the world cleansing. This painful lesson had caused the mother of Bloodbath's grade, which was originally higher than Endless Summer, to fall behind. However, now that Endless Summer was already at Myth 3, it might have a chance to see if it could pass through the world cleansing with Endless Summer's help and reach Myth 3. If it successfully reached Myth 3, it could reach the pinnacle of a myth breed fae by quickly devouring blood energy. That was the level of a pinnacle emperor-class expert. At that time, it would be qualified to nurture the blood law into a small world of blood. With the body of a myth breed, it would dip its fingers into creation. Become an existence of a creation breed. Second chapter. Seeking recommendation votes and monthly votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 434. Early morning. Indigo Azure Sea Market. Lin Yuan was wearing a set of moon-white spirit qi clothes. This set of moon-white spirit qi clothes looked very simple, and only a few subtle designs showed that this moon-white spirit qi clothes were different. Upon closer inspection, one would find many moon-white rice beads strung on this set of clothes. These rice beads were mixed together to form 5 kinds of fortune patterns. When Lin Yuan had given Hu Quan the completely jade-textured spiritual materials, there was a long strip of white sandalwood among the first batch of completely jade-textured wood. This completely jade-textured white sandalwood was simply too small, and Hu Quan could only make a pair of chopsticks. Therefore, this completely jade-textured white sandalwood was left behind. Some time ago, when you had seen the dragon phoenix landscape carp evolve into the mountain river eternal life carp and had perhaps found some inspiration. She took the remaining completely jade-textured white sandalwood and the warm brocade silk and chose 5 of the 6 kinds of fortune patterns on the dragon phoenix landscape carp's body. She made this moon-white spirit chi clothes. This spirit chi clothes looked unusually low-key on Lin Yuan. But at the same time, it also made Lin Yuan's original youthful spirit become graceful. Lin Yuan looked at the densely packed stalls in front of him and could not help but sigh. There were simply too many stalls in the Indigo Azure Sea Market. These stalls were like a maze that was mixed together. It was unknown how long it would take to walk out of this sea market. Lin Yuan had always thought that the Indigo Azure Sea Market would be dirty and noisy like most spiritual ingredient and fey trading markets. But now, this Indigo Azure Sea Market was very clean and did not even have any strange smell. Although Lin Yuan did not smell anything strange, Genius, who was in Lin Yuan's arms, wrinkled its little nose and said in a childish voice, "Lin Yuan, the fishy smell here is so strong. Lin Yuan's place has such a strong fishy smell." Genius is almost out of breath. Lin Yuan quickly took out a mint leaf from the diamond face storage box, used his fingers to squeeze out the juice from the mint leaf, and put it on Genius' nose. When Listen heard Genius' words and saw Lin Yuan's nose twitching as though he was distinguishing the fishy smell, he explained, "The Indigo Azure Sea Market is the biggest event held by the Indigo Azure City officials once a decade. Therefore, before the Indigo Azure Guards will set up the scene in advance and let the Sea Serpent Aura Coral release the Sea Serpent Aura. This causes the Spirit Chi professionals who trade in the Indigo Azure Sea Market to be affected by the Sea Serpent Aura and not be able to smell the peculiar smell. However, most of the Fae's sense of smell is more developed than Spirit Chi professionals, and they are more immune to the Sea Serpent Gas Coral Sea Serpent Gas. Therefore, the Faes can smell the market." When Lin Yuan heard Listen's explanation, he felt that Indigo Azure City's officials were really talented. However, what was the difference between this and breathing through the mouth instead of the nose because you were afraid of smelling shit? Lin Yuan looked at Genius' sickly appearance and could only put it back into the spirit lock spatial zone. Lin Yuan couldn't understand. Genius was clearly a feline fae, but it didn't like to eat fish. Every time it smelled fish, it would hide far away. On the contrary, he liked to eat the pork of the black-back mountain boar just like him. At that moment, Lin Yuan suddenly heard a few violent hisses, which were not far from his ears. Lin Yuan looked in the direction of the hissing and saw 3 blood-red snake species fays locked in an iron cage made of metal spiritual materials. These 3 blood-red snake species fays were violently hitting the iron cage with their bodies. However, the bodies of these 3 snake fays collided with the iron cage. Although the sound was not small, the iron cage was not damaged at all. The vendor selling these 3 blood-red snake species fays hurriedly picked up the stone bowl at the side. He sprinkled the yellow powder in the stone bowl on these 3 blood-red snake species fays. When these 3 blood-red snake species fays felt the yellow powder, they immediately became exhausted, and their hissing weakened a lot. When Lu Jia saw this scene, he sighed and said, "They actually used realgar to sprinkle these 3 red water blood snakes." He actually used realgar to scatter the 3 red water blood snakes. Fays like the red water blood snakes that rely on blood energy to survive are most afraid of realgar. Just by sprinkling a large amount of realgar powder on it, the red water blood snake's origin will be slightly damaged in a short while. If he splashes it 3 times like this, I'm afraid that these 3 young red water blood snakes will die. Lin Yuan frowned. The realgar would enter the red water blood snake's blood through its scales. The red water blood snake was a kind of fae that relied on blood to survive. When realgar fused into the blood, it might only have a suppressive effect on other snake species fays. However, it was fatal to the red water blood snakes. It was obvious that this vendor was not a creation master and did not know much about fays like the red water blood snakes. This vendor should have just happened to catch these 3 red water blood snakes in the wilderness and happened to be in the Indigo Azure Sea Market. Thus, he sold the red water blood snakes at the Indigo Azure Sea Market. Although the red water blood snakes were very rare, very few spirit chi professionals would be willing to contract them. After the red water blood snakes were nurtured to become stronger, the surface of their scales would carry a layer of extremely toxic blood-clotting toxin. This blood-clotting toxin might not be harmful to the contractor, but it would affect the other phase that the contractor contracted. This made it so that spirit chi professionals who had contracted the red water blood snakes could not contract other phase. At that moment, the mother of Bloodbath's strange and pleasant voice rang in his ears. Lin Yuan, these 3 red water blood snakes actually have a faint trace of hornless dragon bloodline. Quickly help me buy these 3 little fellows. The mother of Bloodbath's voice carried a hint of urgency. Lin Yuan did not understand what the mother of Bloodbath meant. If these 3 red water blood snakes had the bloodline of a hornless dragon, then buying them would be a great bargain. If not for the fact that the mother of Bloodbath had comprehended the blood law rune, even if there were other myth breed fays with a higher grade than the mother of Bloodbath, the mother of Bloodbath would not be able to defeat them. Even the mother of Bloodbath could not easily sense the hornless dragon bloodline hidden in these 3 little fellows. However, if the mother of Bloodbath wanted to break through to Myth 3, it would undoubtedly need a large amount of blood energy. The blood energy in these 3 red water blood snakes was too little and was undoubtedly useless to the mother of Bloodbath. Could it be that the mother of Bloodbath wanted to buy these 3 red water blood snakes and eat them like spicy strips? The mother of Bloodbath seemed to have sensed Lin Yuan's strange expression, and that strange and pleasant voice explained with a trace of helplessness. I don't want the blood energy in these 3 little fellows. I want to nurture them well. After hearing the mother of Bloodbath's words, a strange thought suddenly flashed in Lin Yuan's mind. Is the mother of Bloodbath going to carry out a naughty husband nurturing plan? Is the mother of Bloodbath going to carry out a naughty husband nurturing plan? First update. Seeking monthly votes and recommendation votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 435. It would take a lot of time to nurture these 3 red water blood snakes. Moreover, it was not certain whether they were male or female. What if hubby nurtured sisters? Oh my god, that would be a huge loss. At that moment, Lin Yuan heard the mother of Bloodbath speak again. This way, the exclusive skill I comprehended as a myth breed can finally be put to use in the future. This was the second time Lin Yuan had heard the mother of Bloodbath mention its exclusive skill. The last time Lin Yuan had heard it mention its exclusive skill was on the long-backed swan's back. At that time, the mother of Bloodbath had said that its exclusive skill was good at concealment. Lin Yuan had never used Morbius True Data to check the mother of Bloodbath's exclusive skill. This time, Lin Yuan could not resist his curiosity and used Morbius True Data to check the mother of Bloodbath's exclusive skill. Fey name, Mother of Bloodbath, Fey species, bird-catching arachnid/calicary, Fey grade, suzerain, 7/10, Fey type, blood, Fey quality, myth 2, blood law, abilities frowny face execution stinger, inject blood energy into the target's body through H-sharp calicary to control the target's blood. All-seeing eye, the spider eyes look directly at the blood core in the target's body and predict the target's next actions based on the blood flow. 8-directional blood, shock and solidify the target's blood and use the changes in the blood form to destroy the target's body. At the same time, control the blood to flow out of the target's body through the target's 8 orifices. Spider form attachment, condense one's own blood energy into a blood core and activate the blood core to withstand external attacks. Blood grasp, when controlling the target's blood, one can temporarily control the target's body to carry out actions through the blood flow in the target's body. Blood embrace, accept the surrounding blood energy and devour it into one's body. Temporarily increase one's strength through the blood energy and then use the blood energy to slowly heal injuries. Exclusive skill frowny face desire spider body, increase one's affinity with blood energy so that the body will not reject the excessive blood energy. Instead, it will transform the excessive blood energy into a new stomach sac to store the blood energy. After devouring the blood energy and purifying it in the body, the blood energy can be directly absorbed by the body. Stealth spider shadow, stop the flow of one's blood and chi, conceal all one's aura, and transform into a state of nothingness. External blood bone, fuse one's shed spider teeth into another young Fae's body, allowing the other young Fae to become one's external blood bone. The external blood bone's strength cannot be higher than one's own strength. After seeing the mother of bloodbath's attributes, Lin Yuan did not know what to say for a moment. He knew that when Faes became myth breeds, their willpower runes would transform into law runes, and the power of law would be added to their abilities. From there, it would allow the Fae's previously comprehended abilities to fuse with its own comprehended laws and produce a qualitative change. After looking at the mother of bloodbath's true data, he knew that the mother of bloodbath had given him the red crystal spider. In fact, it was the blood core condensed by the mother of bloodbath's arachnid attachment. Based on this true data, Lin Yuan understood why the mother of bloodbath was qualified to say that it was going to reach myth 3 when it had only reached myth 2. The mother of bloodbath's diamond skill, blood embrace, was an enhancement and recovery skill. However, after blood embrace was combined with the exclusive skill, desire spider body, it allowed the mother of bloodbath to have the ability to constantly devour blood energy and then let this blood energy become a condition for its own strength without any hindrance. This was Lin Yuan's first time seeing a myth breed Fae's true data. After truly seeing a myth breed Fae's true data, just by looking at its abilities and exclusive skills, Lin Yuan knew how strong a myth breed Fae was. Those 3 red water blood snakes should be the Faes that the mother of bloodbath wanted to use to cultivate into external blood bones. The mother of bloodbath's exclusive skill, external blood bone, needed the mother of bloodbath's shed spider teeth. Spider Faes would shed their spider teeth about every 100 years. Since the mother of bloodbath needed 3 red water blood snakes, it meant that it was at least 300 years old now. For a wild Fae, becoming a suzerain/myth 2 Fae in 300 years was extremely rare. This showed how talented the mother of bloodbath was. Lin Yuan walked up to the vendor and said, "Boss, these 3 snake Faes hissed very loudly just now." "Boss, these 3 snake Faes hissed very loudly just now, and they look quite energetic. May I know how many radiance dollars you are willing to sell them?" The vendor's eyes lit up when he heard Lin Yuan's words. He hadn't even opened his shop yet. The vendor hurriedly pointed to the big water trough next to the iron cage containing the red water blood snakes and said, "I mainly sell deep-sea butterfly shells. I mainly sell deep-sea butterfly shells. Look at how big these deep-sea butterfly shells are. The beads inside must be of good quality." After digging out the pearl, these 2 pieces of butterfly shells can be polished and hung on water-type Faes to increase their advancement speed. Lin Yuan had long noticed this big water trough. However, he had no interest in the deep-sea butterfly shells and the pearls produced by them. The quality of the deep-sea butterfly shells in this water trough was not as good as what he fed the spirit-drawing ichthyosaur, Blackie. If the deep-sea butterfly shells could increase the advancement speed of water-type Faes, it was indeed possible. This was because the butterfly shells had a weak ability to gather water elements. It was just that the speed of gathering water elements was too slow, but it was better than nothing. Lin Yuan shook his head and still pointed to the 3 red water blood snakes. "Boss, I want these 3 small snakes." The vendor's face fell as soon as he heard that. "These 3 snake Faes are all bronze and not worth much money. I don't want to buy them alone. If you want them, buy the 5 deep-sea butterfly shells in my water trough, and I'll give you these 3 snake Faes." When Lin Yuan had seen this vendor sprinkle realgar powder on the 3 red water blood snakes, he had felt that this vendor should not know the red water blood snakes. This vendor was originally doing business. No matter how cruel he was, he would not be willing to damage the Faes he was selling. Now, it seemed that this vendor really did not know the red water blood snakes. Due to the blood-clotting toxin on the surface of the red water blood snakes, very few people needed them. However, the price on Star Web was about 70 radiance dollars. Lin Yuan originally planned to buy these 3 red water blood snakes for 200 radiance dollars. However, this vendor actually said that as long as he bought the 5 deep-sea butterfly shells in the water trough, he would give these 3 red water blood snakes to him. In that case, this vendor would lose his pants. Lin Yuan looked at the deep-sea butterfly shells in the water trough and felt that he needed to use true data to cheat. Second update. Seeking recommendation votes. Monthly votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 436. At that moment, Lin Yuan heard the vendor knock on the water tank and say, "Take a look at the price of these deep-sea butterfly shells first. Let's take a look at the price of this deep-sea butterfly clam first, and then you can decide whether to open it or not. You have to pay for everything here." Lin Yuan saw that there was a black label on the large water tank in front of him that said, "Don't worry." It said, 10 radiance dollars for 1 deep-sea butterfly shell. No bargaining. Bargainer's rice pot will explode. Lin Yuan blinked when he saw the price. This vendor was too ruthless. How could a person stand an exploding rice pot? It was fine if the steamed rice exploded, but if it was cooked porridge, it was equivalent to receiving a scalding and plastic surgery service. The deep-sea butterfly shells sold by this vendor were just the most ordinary of the deep-sea butterfly shells, and the selling price on Star Web was 5 radiance dollars at most. In this Indigo Azure Sea market, this kind of thing would actually be twice the price on Star Web. This vendor's asking price was really not ambiguous. Buying deep-sea butterfly shells was a gamble. If the quality of the shell beads was good, not only could he get back the cost, but he could also make a profit. He could even make a profit. However, Lin Yuan had just used Morbius True Data Check to check the 30-odd deep-sea butterfly shells in this large water tank. After checking, Lin Yuan found that these 30 deep-sea butterfly shells were all substandard shells without shell beads. Moreover, these 30 deep-sea butterfly shells had been seriously corroded in the deep sea. The seriously corroded deep-sea butterfly shells could no longer be polished into butterfly shell flowers for Fays to eat and slowly stimulate the dragon species bloodline in the Fae. Such shells could at most be ground into shell powder and sprinkled in a water body to improve the water body's environment. The substandard shells in the water tank should be the worst batch of butterfly shells left after layers of screening. However, these substandard shells had been faked by the vendor. This vendor's counterfeiting methods were extremely high. If Lin Yuan had not used true data to check these deep-sea butterfly shells, Lin Yuan had really made a mistake. Lin Yuan did not expect that someone would actually take out such substandard shells of such quality to sell openly. The price of such substandard shells on Star Web was less than 1 radiance dollar. The radiance dollars this vendor spent to fake them were higher than the price of the deep-sea butterfly shells of this quality. Such a business was simply evil. Lin Yuan naturally wouldn't buy such a deep-sea butterfly shell. Buying such a substandard shell was no different from spending 50 radiance dollars to buy a pile of junk. The vendor looked at the masked youth in front of him, who kept looking at the deep-sea butterfly shells in the water tank. He looked very serious, as though he was thinking about which one to buy. He couldn't help but hum a song in his heart. Counterfeiting is a natural thing to do. The technique is at the peak of perfection. Success was effortless. I relied on swindling and deceiving. Study painstakingly, for the sake of skill transmission. It seems like he has forgotten his principles for the sake of profit, but he has never stopped striving to improve himself. Even if lightning strikes us, we must do our best. Just as the peddler was getting excited, the masked young man pointed at the small cages beside the large tank that contained the deep-sea butterfly shells. "Boss, I see that in addition to the deep-sea butterfly shells, you also sell some marine creatures. I think that gold-green oxygen sea anemone is not bad. Why don't I buy this gold-green oxygen sea anemone and you give me those 3 snake fays? How about it?" Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, the vendor hurriedly sized him up. It was as if he was trying to see if the masked young man in front of him had noticed something from these deep-sea butterfly shells. The peddler noticed that the eyes behind the strange mask were staring at him, and there was a faint smile on the corners of the mouth. This smile made the peddler, who was originally in high spirits, feel a little nervous. The Indigo Azure Sea Market was organized by Indigo Azure City, and the Indigo Azure Guard was fully responsible for managing it. It could be said that it was extremely strict. Although his act of forgery was not that bad. However, if others found out, he would be expelled from the Indigo Azure Guard. However, if the vendor next to him knew about it and helped him promote it, what would he gain from the Indigo Azure Sea Market? Wasn't he trying so hard to study the art of counterfeiting so that he could lie at home every day for the next 10 years before the next Indigo Azure Sea Market? Chinwala, will never work for others. The peddler quickly changed the topic. I originally planned to trade for that green oxygen sea anemone. You're my first customer today, and we hit it off. I'll sell it to you for 4,000 radiance dollars. Lin Yuan was a little speechless. Why do you make it sound like we're good brothers and I'm taking advantage of you? At that moment, Listen, who was standing next to Lin Yuan, said to the vendor. Boss, the Indigo Azure Sea Market will only be open for 3 days. It won't be easy to sell so many wild fays that you caught. Look, the tentacles of this gold-green oxygen sea anemone are already curled up. If we don't sell it quickly, it won't fetch a high price. The vendor at the stall glanced at the gold-green oxygen sea anemone and its slightly curled tentacles. He quickly grabbed a bucket of seawater mixed with energy or powder and poured it on the green oxygen sea anemone. However, when the seawater mixed with energy or powder was poured on the green oxygen sea anemone's body, it could only maintain the current state of the green oxygen sea anemone. It could not improve its condition. If marine fays were to be sold on land, their condition would be greatly reduced after leaving the sea for a period of time. After a long time, it would even affect the fays' roots. The vendor looked at the green oxygen sea anemone's current state and cursed angrily. It's really this money-losing thing. Give me some reaction after drinking this mouthful of water. Why are you still half dead? Lin Yuan watched as the vendor hurriedly dealt with these fays. He could not help but wonder why there would be people who were so black-hearted and stupid when doing business. Although aquatic fays' condition would decline once they left the water, they were much stronger than aquatic fays. Next to these aquatic fays, there was a fay that could release spirit chi. He wanted the fay that could release spirit chi to release spirit chi for the aquatic fays to absorb. Then, even if these aquatic fays left the water for 3 days, they would be able to fully support it. Even fays like the deep-sea butterfly shells, which were very sensitive to spirit chi. Even if they left the sea and were raised in a tank, they could still grow quickly under the effect of spirit chi. The stalls at the side all had fays that could release spirit chi. Among the fays that could release spirit chi at the other stalls, the most common was the spirit siphon goldfish. However, this vendor had not prepared anything. Even if he had learned from the other stalls, he would not have been as flustered as he was now. Boss, did you notice that the other stalls' fays are more flexible? The other stalls' fays like the green oxygen sea anemone don't need to use seawater mixed with energy or powder at all. The first one was even worse. End of this chapter. Chapter 437. When the vendor heard Lin Yuan's words, his suppressed anger was suddenly ignited. With a vigorous step, he kicked the iron cage containing the 3 red water blood snakes and cursed. These 3 trash snakes ate all 3 of my spirit siphon goldfish. It's really a big loss. At that moment, the vendor looked at the black board on the sink that said, 10 radiance dollars for 1 deep water butterfly shell. No bargaining. Bargainer's rice pot will explode. He felt that it should be changed to 12 radiance dollars for 1 deep water butterfly shell. No bargaining. Bargainer's front teeth will explode. As long as the vendor entered the Indigo Azure Sea Market, he was not allowed to go out. Going out was equivalent to giving up the right to set up a stall in the Indigo Azure Sea Market. He had spent 150 radiance dollars to buy a stall card for 3 days. If he went out midway, he would lose all of the 150 radiance dollars. Moreover, after the Indigo Azure Sea Market started, no supplies were allowed to be transported in through ostrich logistics. There was no way he could buy a spirit siphon goldfish. When Lin Yuan saw the vendor's reaction, he chuckled. He summoned a Bronze I/Elite 5 Fortune Ranchu from the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone. After the Bronze I/Elite Spirit Siphon Goldfish was summoned, rich spirit chi immediately spread out. The masks made of completely jade-textured silk threads and the completely jade-textured white sandalwood rice beads embroidered on Lin Yuan's moon-white spirit chi clothes lit up with a hazy jade-textured luster. However, the concentration of spirit chi released by this bronze spirit siphon goldfish was not too strong. Therefore, the luster emitted by Lin Yuan's and Lu Jie's masks made of completely jade-textured wood silk threads was not very obvious under this clear sun. However, the luster of the completely jade-textured white sandalwood rice beads on Lin Yuan's body made the 5 kinds of blessings patterns particularly obvious, making Lin Yuan look exceptionally outstanding. The vendor looked curiously at the shining rice beads on Lin Yuan's body and asked, "Brother, aren't you heavy with the fluorite strung on your body? Brother, aren't you heavy with the fluorite strung on your body?" Then, the vendor's gaze never left the palm-sized 5 Fortune Ranchu on Lin Yuan's palm. His eyes were full of unconcealable desire. Upon hearing the peddler's words, Lin blinked in astonishment. This vendor was really knowledgeable. He actually mistook the completely jade-textured white sandalwood for fluorite. Fluorite, which emitted a luster under the sun, was generally used to make stone sculptures. Even the most vulgar person would not embroider fluorite on their body as a decoration. Lin Yuan ignored the peddler's words and asked, "Boss, are you interested in this Bronze I/Elite 5 Fortune Ranchu?" This 5 Fortune Ranchu reached the excellent grade at Bronze 1. There's a high chance that it will break through to the flawless grade or even epic grade at Bronze 10. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, the hawker gulped down his saliva and asked, "You want to exchange this spirit siphon goldfish for my green oxygen sea anemone? I'm willing to give you all the deep sea butterfly shells in this tank." The corners of Lin Yuan's mouth couldn't help but twitch. Why does this vendor always want to scam me? There are a total of more than 600 deep-sea butterfly shells in your tank. I'll give you the star web price of 5 radiance dollars each. Give me another 3,000 radiance dollars, and I'll give you this Bronze I/Elite Spirit Siphon Goldfish. When the 5 Fortune Ranchu was at Elite I/Elite, it could be sold for about 60 radiance dollars. Fays like the Spirit Siphon Goldfish, which were extremely difficult to advance, could reach Bronze I/Elite. If it was a trade, the price should be about 2,500 radiance dollars. Since the 5 Fortune Ranchu belonged to the auspicious category, its price was a little more than double that of ordinary spirit siphon goldfish. It was about 5,500 radiance dollars. Lin Yuan wanted to exchange for the gold-green oxygen sea anemone in the hawker's hands because it could constantly filter out oxygen in the seawater. It was like a natural oxygen cylinder that could continuously supply oxygen. Green oxygen sea anemones were very common in coastal cities like the Indigo Azure Sea. The green oxygen sea anemone that was in a bad state just now was worth about 3,000 radiance dollars. Lin Yuan had asked the hawker to give him another 3,000 radiance dollars because he clearly intended to earn 500 radiance dollars from this hawker who always wanted to scam him. The hawker was obviously a little hesitant when he heard Lin Yuan's offer. If he used the gold-green oxygen sea anemone and 3,000 radiance dollars to exchange for the 5 Fortune Ranchu. If he sold everything in this Indigo Azure Sea market, he would make a huge profit. Then, he would not be able to lie down for the next 10 years and would have to work for others. At that moment, Lin Yuan said to the hawker, "The 5 Fortune Ranchu is considered a fine product among spirit siphon goldfish and has a very large market. Even if you want to sell this 5 Fortune Ranchu after the sea market, it will be very convenient for you to do so. Moreover, As long as the Bronze Eye/Elite Spirit Siphon Goldfish is successfully promoted to Flawless, its price can increase by more than 10 times in the blink of an eye. The hawker only felt that the youth in front of him, who was constantly tempting him to buy the 5 fortune ranchu, was like a devil. Lin Yuan was using a big cheese to lure him to the edge of the cliff and then stepping on empty air. The hawker did not know why, but he suddenly felt a sense of crisis in his heart. But soon, this sense of crisis was covered up by longing. This big cheese is too fragrant. The hawker gritted his teeth and slapped his thigh fiercely. Brother, I'll buy it. Lin Yuan immediately exchanged the goods with this hawker. At that moment, the 3 red water blood snakes with the hornless dragon bloodline and the gold-green oxygen sea anemone that the mother of bloodbath needed were all in Lin Yuan's possession. At that moment, a very gentle voice echoed not far away. Brother, I don't know if you are willing to part with these 3 red water blood snakes. I'm willing to buy them for 100 radiance dollars each. This gentle voice made the eyes of the hawker, who was originally in love with the 5 fortune ranchu, widen. At that moment, the hawker felt that this person couldn't be thinking of putting on an act with this youth wearing a strange mask, right? But immediately after, the hawker exclaimed, "Fuck! I seem to have just given away these 3 trash snake fays for free. Why are they selling for 100 radiance dollars each?" Lin Yuan turned around and saw a thin and weak youth sitting in a wheelchair, giving off an elegant scholarly aura. However, this thin youth with the scholarly air used a blanket to cover his legs. It seemed that there was something wrong with his legs. Looking at the youth's thin appearance, Lin Yuan felt that this thin youth should not have injured his legs but had been disabled for many years. Lin Yuan said, "I'm very interested in these 3 red water blood snakes, so I really can't part with them." Second update. Seeking recommendation votes. Monthly votes. Love you guys. Button was hospitalized. When he suddenly knew that he had received a recommendation, he could only try his best to update. Thank you for everyone's support. End of this chapter. Chapter 438. After saying that, Lin Yuan stored the cage containing the 3 red water blood snakes and the cage containing the gold-green oxygen sea anemone into his diamond face storage box. At that moment, Lin Yuan felt a few sharp auras sweeping toward him. A middle-aged man with 3 scars on his face standing behind the thin youth said in a deep voice, "Why don't you talk to our young master? Why don't you talk to our young master? The price of the red water blood snake is only around 70 radiance dollars." Before the middle-aged man with 3 scars on his face could finish speaking, his figure paused. At this moment, the skinny young man furrowed his brows and glanced behind him as he spoke. "Uncle Fu, it's not like home outside. Keep your temper in check." After saying that, the thin youth turned around and nodded apologetically at Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan didn't care. Just as he was about to leave with Lu Jia and listen, Lin Yuan saw the vendor pull out a smile that was uglier than crying. "You knew that those 3 snake fays were red water blood snakes?" Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan nodded and thought to himself. "Not only do I know that these 3 snake fays are red water blood snakes, but I also know that they have the hornless dragon bloodline in their bodies." If he told this vendor, Lin Yuan was really afraid that the vendor would cry. Although Lin Yuan thought so, he said, "Boss, we're leaving. Boss, we're leaving. You have to nurture that Bronze Eye/Elite Spirit Siphon Goldfish well." When the vendor heard Lin Yuan's words, he stomped his feet in anger. However, when he saw the faint smile on Lin Yuan's face, the vendor's hair suddenly stood on end for some reason. Immediately after, the vendor felt an unusual pain in the ass. He had wanted to make a big profit at the beginning. In the end, he didn't make any profit and lost 300 radiance dollars. If he hadn't eagerly given away the 3 red water blood snakes, he could have earned 300 radiance dollars for them. He might even be able to use these 3 red water blood snakes to sell the deep water butterfly shells to this little cripple in the wheelchair. The more he thought about it, the more his heart ached. He carefully placed the spirit siphon goldfish he had bought into the water tank where these deep-water butterfly shells were kept. When the hawker sensed that his aquatic fays were in a better state, he felt a little better. He stood in the middle of the stall, waiting for the fat sheep to arrive. Lin Yuan was currently communicating with the mother of Bloodbath. Why do you have a smirk on your face? Is there something wrong with the spirit siphon goldfish you gave to that vendor? Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan hurriedly shook his head. Don't malign me. This 5-fortune ranchu is healthy, and it has a pretty good exclusive skill. The mother of Bloodbath had not carefully observed the spirit siphon goldfish that Lin Yuan had traded. However, upon seeing the strange smile on Lin Yuan's face, the mother of Bloodbath knew that there was definitely a problem with this 5-fortune ranchu. He just didn't know what the problem was. Lin Yuan felt that the next time he saw this vendor, he would definitely jump up and beat him up. He exchanged for the spirit siphon goldfish's exclusive skill, turbidity removal. The exclusive skill, impurity removal, could remove the impurities from the surface of other fae within the user's body. The second-rate shells in the tank were coated with a layer of artificial glaze that was almost indistinguishable from the finest butterfly shells. With this 5-fortune ranchu's exclusive skill, turbidity removal, he believed that in less than 2 hours, the glaze attached to the surface of these second-rate shells would be stripped off. This 5-fortune ranchu with turbidity removal was a spirit siphon goldfish. Lin Yuan had specially picked it out from the school of fish in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. Lin Yuan felt that the Indigo Azure City officials should give him a silk banner with the word Swindler Killer printed on it. Lin Yuan sensed the state of the 3 red water blood snakes in the amber button-shaped diamond face storage box. They were obviously better than when they had just been sprinkled with realgar powder. Lin Yuan asked the mother of Bloodbath. Mother of Bloodbath, do you have any requirements for the quality of those 3 red water blood snakes? The mother of Bloodbath replied with some melancholy. These 3 red water blood snakes have the hornless dragon bloodline and are exceptionally talented. The best way is to let these 3 red water blood snakes awaken the hornless dragon bloodline in their bodies at bronze and then promote their quality to epic. My nurturing of 3 red water blood snakes is actually similar to you humans' nurturing phase. However, these 3 scarlet water blood snakes don't need to comprehend willpower runes. Instead, they can share my blood law. Lin Yuan replied after hearing the mother of Bloodbath's words. Then leave these 3 red water blood snakes with me for now. Leave the awakening of bloodlines and strengthening of grades to me as well. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's subconscious words, the mother of Bloodbath was silent for a moment before softly spitting out a word. All right. He recalled the tender youth that needed his protection at all times in Millstone Town. Now, he had begun to take on all the responsibilities for him. This was something that even he could not do. In the short span of half a year, the young and inexperienced boy had unknowingly grown up. The skinny young man sitting in a wheelchair in front of the stall noticed that the person behind him did not move for a long time and asked, "Uncle Fu, it's rare for you to come out. Push me to the front." The skinny youth's words seemed to have awakened the middle-aged man with the 3 scars on his face. The middle-aged man with 3 scars on his face woke up with a start. He subconsciously pushed the wheelchair in his hand, causing the skinny young man sitting in the wheelchair to feel a jolt. The middle-aged man with 3 scars on his face said hurriedly. This subordinate was absent-minded and disturbed third young master. The skinny young man did not mind and asked curiously. I remember that although Uncle Fu's ice heart lionfish hasn't advanced to myth breed, it has already broken through to suzerain. Why would it be distracted? The middle-aged man with 3 scars on his face said with a stern expression. Just now, when I used my aura to suppress the masked youth, all the blood in my body started to go out of control. The blood rushed to my brain and heart, and I lost my focus. The skinny young man who was addressed as third young master narrowed his eyes when he heard this, and a somewhat evil smile appeared on his gentle, scholarly face. Reverse blood flow, messing up your mind? How interesting. Lin Yuan, Lu Jia, and Listen had bought a lot of things in the past few hours in the Indigo Azure Sea Market. Lu Jie and Listen watched as Lin Yuan purchased large quantities of phase and spiritual ingredients that grew in the ocean. Among them, Lin Yuan would only buy particularly high-quality or mutated marine phase. Most of them were rare spiritual ingredients that could only be produced in the ocean. Lin Yuan's harvest was quite bountiful as he spent a lot of resources. Listen and Lu Jie had long understood Lin Yuan's deep foundation. At this moment, they could not help but refresh their understanding of Lin Yuan's foundation again and again. First, end of this chapter. Chapter 439. When Lin Yuan had bought the phase and spiritual materials, Listen had noticed the difference between him and the other young masters of the major factions. Lin Yuan had a deep foundation, but he would not squander it. When Lin Yuan purchased the spiritual ingredients and phase, he controlled the price very well and did not let himself suffer a loss. It could be said that Lin Yuan's purchases might look like he was sweeping up a lot of goods, but upon closer inspection, each transaction was more like picking up scraps. In Listen's eyes, Lin Yuan was earning resources while consuming. Through the purchase of phase and spiritual ingredients, the snowball of resources that he could control was getting bigger and bigger. Listen admired this kind of vision and ability. At that moment, Lin Yuan was speaking to the elder in front of the stall. "Boss, the blood coral crystals you sold belong to me now." The old man looked at the blood coral crystal with a pained expression. Then, he looked at the 2 pieces of jade-textured agarwood that looked like black crystals in his hand, waved his hand, and said with some heartache, "You got lucky with these blood coral crystals." Lin Yuan said with a laugh. "Boss likes elegance. Otherwise, he wouldn't have preferred this agarwood that has a subtle and undetectable aura but can calm the mind." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, the old man at the stall was obviously stunned for a moment. "I like agarwood that is completely jade-textured. What does that have to do with the taste of agarwood?" It was Lin Yuan's turn to be stunned. "Boss, didn't you want this completely jade-textured agarwood to burn?" The old man looked at Lin Yuan with a dumbfounded expression and shouted with trembling lips. "The deal is done. Don't pretend in front of me. Only a fool would be willing to burn this completely jade-textured agarwood and make it into a big thumb ring to wear. That's the best use of it." The more the old man looked at the masked youth in front of him, the more stifled he felt. "You're filling up all the coins. If you are so awesome, why don't you rear a few legend phase at home?" Upon hearing the old man's words, Lin Yuan picked up the blood coral crystal. He pulled Listen and Lu Jie away. In the depths of the Indigo Azure Sea Market, most of the spiritual ingredients and phase sold by the vendors were good things that were rarely seen outside. Such good things would naturally not be sold casually. Instead, they were used by the stall owners to exchange for the phase or spiritual ingredients they needed. This old man wanted to exchange for the completely jade-textured agarwood, and Lin Yuan saw the blood coral crystal containing a lot of blood energy. The blood energy contained in the blood coral crystal was extremely majestic, and it was what the mother of bloodbath needed. Lin Yuan had thought he had met an enthusiast who liked agarwood like him. In the end, this hobbyist was so vulgar that he wanted to make a big ring out of agarwood and wear it on his finger. It would be better to crush the completely jade-textured agarwood and use it as ink to practice calligraphy. At that moment, Lu Jie pointed at a stall in the distance and said, "That's right. Lin Yuan, I really found someone selling water world dimensional lifeforms flesh over there. It's just that this person's selling price is a little ridiculous. He actually wants to use the flesh of dimensional lifeforms of the same grade from the Abyss Dimensional Rift to exchange for the flesh of water world dimensional lifeforms at a 1:10 ratio. Many parts of the demons in the Abyss Dimensional Rift are not cheap. The water world dimensional lifeform's flesh rots in the air and emits a stench. It can be defined as a disgusting biochemical weapon." In Lu Jie's opinion, it was not appropriate to exchange the demon's flesh for the water world dimensional lifeform's flesh, even if it was at a ratio of 1:100. When Lin Yuan heard Lu Jie's words, his eyes lit up as he looked into the distance. Along the way, Lin Yuan had been looking for vendors selling the water world dimensional lifeform's flesh. However, after searching for a while, Lin Yuan could not find a stall. Lin Yuan knew that the water world dimensional lifeform's flesh was too weak, and few people would keep it. However, he did not expect to find any vendors selling the water world dimensional lifeform's flesh in Indigo Azure City's once-in-a-decade Indigo Azure Sea Market, a place that specialized in producing marine resources. Fortunately, he had finally found one. Lin Yuan glanced at the stalls around and said to Listen and Lu Jia, "Big brother Lu, listen, the two of you walk around too. Big brother Lu, listen, the two of you should also walk around. If you encounter spiritual materials that contain a huge amount of blood chi energy, help me buy them. Also, take a look and see if there are any more suitable resources." After saying that, he handed Listen and Lu Jia a somewhat full golden-threaded brocade pouch. Then, he walked toward the vendor who was exchanging the flesh of the Abyss Dimensional Rift's lifeforms. Lu Jia and Listen took a look at the golden-threaded brocade pouch and almost dropped it to the ground. Both sachets were filled with 30 Heavenly Maiden-grade fire elemental pearls produced by the scorching elemental shellfish. This was a huge amount of wealth. Lu Jia said to Listen when he saw that Lin Yuan had walked to the stall to exchange for the water world dimensional lifeform's flesh. "You go to the left, I'll go to the right. We'll each go to one side to exchange for resources." Upon hearing that, Listen suddenly said with a mysterious smile, "Big brother Lu, do you want to compete to see who can exchange the 30 Heavenly Maiden-grade elemental pearls for more resources?" Lu Jia replied with a simple and honest smile. "Fine, I lost the bet last time and you made me eat 30 sour lemons. This time, let's bet. Whoever loses will eat 50 gold Chaotian peppers." Upon hearing that, Listen felt his entire mouth start to become numb. It was as if his cheeks were swollen and burning with pain. Listen said hurriedly, "Brother Lu, 50 gold Chaotian peppers will kill you. Why don't you change it to bronze?" Lu Jia glanced at Listen and snorted. "Since we're going to bet, let's bet something exciting. If you don't like the gold Chaotian pepper, we can change it to the silver Chaotian pepper." Lu Jia's provocation made Listen clap his hands. "Since we're looking for excitement, let's see it through to the end. I would like to exchange 50 gold Chaotian peppers for 1 platinum devil pepper. Do you dare, brother Lu?" There was only one thought in Lu Jia's mind, and that was, if he ate a platinum devil pepper, he would have to sleep for at least a month. This was simply mutual harm. However, even someone like Listen, who was afraid of spicy food, was not afraid. Why should he shrink back? "Let's bet. You're not allowed to drink milk an hour after eating." Listen did not expect Lu Jia to really dare to bet and even think about not letting him drink milk. He had an idea and added another condition. "What's the big deal if you don't drink milk? If you're capable, drink a whole bowl of iced Coke after eating the platinum devil pepper." Second chapter. Friends who like this book hope to subscribe to it. Sob, sob, sob. Button was afraid that he would not be able to recommend it in the future if the results were not good. Thank you, everyone. Sob, sob, sob. He had not been notified of this recommendation, so he had not saved any chapters. Button had been working hard to write for the past 2 days. Cough, cough. He had updated a total of 30,000 words. In the future, he hoped that everyone could slowly listen to Button's story. Go write in seclusion. There would be another 6 chapters before nightfall, right? End of this chapter. Chapter 440. Lu Jia and Listen looked at each other and felt that the other was a ruthless person. However, at the thought of the taste of the platinum devil ghost pepper, Lu Jia and Listen hurriedly set off. They began to prepare to use the heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls produced by the scorching elemental shellfish in the golden silk brocade pouch to exchange for supplies. The old man, who had just felt that Lin Yuan was pretending, doubted life again. He initially thought that these two young men who had just bet in front of his stall were just two childish ghosts. He did not expect these two childish ghosts to suddenly jump like wolves and finally become wolf annihilation. The combination of these three people was a pretentious criminal. Two wolf annihilations. It was simply too weird. Lin Yuan had already walked to the core area of the Indigo Azure Sea Market. Most of the phase and spiritual materials sold in the edge area of the Indigo Azure Sea Market were relatively ordinary, and there were few things that could make people's eyes light up. However, the closer he got to the core area of the Indigo Azure Sea Market, the higher the preciousness and quality of the spiritual materials and phase that he could exchange. Previously, there was only one way to go in the periphery of the Indigo Azure Sea Market. However, there were more roads in the core area of the Indigo Azure Sea Market. This made Lin Yuan increasingly start to feel that this Indigo Azure Sea Market was like a huge maze. In Lin Yuan's opinion, the layout of this core area was simply extremely unfriendly to people with no sense of direction. The large number of stalls in front of Lin Yuan were the most deserted in front of the middle-aged man who was exchanging water world dimensional lifeforms flesh for abyss dimensional lifeforms flesh. This middle-aged man was also happy to be idle and looked around at the other stalls around like a patroller patrolling the territory. There were a few platinum fey storage boxes beside him. Upon seeing Lin Yuan walk over, the middle-aged man hurriedly stood up and said, "Little brother, are you exchanging for water world dimensional lifeforms flesh?" The middle-aged man hurriedly stood up and said, "Little brother, are you exchanging for water world dimensional lifeforms flesh?" Lin Yuan nodded and asked, "Uncle, you should have class 3 water world dimensional lifeforms flesh that is equivalent to gold phase, right?" Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, the middle-aged man raised his hand, and Lin Yuan saw that this middle-aged man was wearing 2 somewhat exaggerated rings. The middle-aged man chuckled and said, "I have 2 full diamond phase storage boxes. I have 2 diamond phase storage boxes filled with water world dimensional lifeforms flesh, ranging from class 2 to class 5. But let's make an agreement first. If you don't have a diamond phase storage box, you have to buy these platinum phase storage boxes in front of me. Otherwise, I don't want to be chased out by my own people." When Lin Yuan heard the middle-aged man's words, he nodded in agreement. He had smelled the smell of water world dimensional lifeforms flesh before. Even the sea serpent gas released by the sea serpent gas coral could not conceal this smell. If the flesh of the water world dimensional lifeforms was taken out, the spirit chi professionals in the Indigo Azure Sea Market would probably have a chain reaction of dissolved substances in their stomachs. At the same time, Lin Yuan also found out the middle-aged man's identity from his words. The middle-aged man had said that he didn't want to be chased out, which meant that he was a member of the Indigo Azure Guard. The Indigo Azure Guard was in charge of managing the Indigo Azure Market. At the same time, it also explained why this middle-aged man had 2 diamond phase storage boxes full of high-grade water world dimensional lifeforms flesh. That was because as long as a water world dimensional rift opened in the sea near Indigo Azure City, it would not be able to survive. As long as these water world dimensional lifeforms emerged from the water world dimensional rift and threatened the safety of the residents on the shore of Indigo Azure City, they would be killed. The Indigo Azure Guard was about to move out to exterminate the water world dimensional creatures that were causing trouble. This middle-aged man probably represented the entire Indigo Azure Guard. He wanted to use the Indigo Azure Sea Market to see if he could exchange the water world dimensional creature flesh that he had accumulated over the past 10 years for some relatively useful resources. "Uncle, I have a phase storage box for the water world dimensional lifeforms. I might need more." The middle-aged man laughed heartily when he heard that. "As long as you don't use the flesh and blood of gold water dimensional creatures to fill the sea, I have enough." He took out a platinum phase storage box from the amber button-shaped diamond phase storage box. He then began to repack the gold abyss demon's flesh in the leaf-shaped diamond phase storage box into the platinum phase storage box. He stored about half of the remaining 3,000 class 3 demon's flesh in the leaf-shaped diamond phase storage box. He then handed the platinum phase storage box containing 1,500 sets of demon flesh to the middle-aged man in front of him. The middle-aged man took the platinum phase storage box from Lin Yuan and coughed strangely. Then, he asked in surprise. You want to use so much grade 3 demon flesh to exchange for the grade 3 water world dimensional creature flesh? Lin Yuan nodded. If Red Thorn wanted to increase its level and quality, it was most suitable to devour the flesh of class 3-dimensional lifeforms at the silver/fantasy breed stage. Red Thorn wasn't picky with food. After all, it absorbed the flesh energy from dimensional creatures' flesh. Therefore, eating the flesh of demon dimensional creatures and the flesh of water world dimensional creatures wasn't much different in essence. Red Thorn had already mastered the unique acidic and withering characteristics of the demon dimensional lifeforms' flesh after devouring them in large quantities. Moreover, it can be inherited in the child ramets and ramets produced by spores. Therefore, for Red Thorn, eating the flesh of class 3 demons was only digesting the flesh energy. During this time, Lin Yuan had observed Red Thorn and found that it had devoured the flesh of nearly 100 gold water world dimensional lifeforms. Apart from mutating the 12 1-meter-long, useless petals of Red Thorn's bewitching flowers into gill-shaped petals, it had also allowed Red Thorn to faintly grasp the water world dimensional lifeform's rotten characteristics. This rotten characteristic did not mean that after Red Thorn injured the target, it would let the target rot. Instead, after the child ramets and ramets summoned by Red Thorn died, they would quickly rot and become nutrients for other living child ramets and ramets to absorb. Although Red Thorn's endurance had been greatly enhanced after having the Eye of Relinquish. However, if Red Thorn fully grasped the water world dimensional lifeform's rotten characteristics, it could undoubtedly increase Red Thorn's endurance again. Endurance was the guarantee of Red Thorn's lush and stable sea of flowers, so the more the better. In a short while, Lin Yuan and the middle-aged man finished exchanging this large batch of water world dimensional lifeforms' flesh. After the exchange was completed, the middle-aged man gave Lin Yuan the flesh of 15,000 gold water world dimensional lifeforms. He also gave Lin Yuan an additional 500 gold water world dimensional lifeforms' flesh. After thinking for a while, Lin Yuan said to the middle-aged man, "Uncle, I wonder if you can leave me your contact information." "I don't know if I can leave you with a contact information. I may need more water world dimensional lifeforms flesh in the future. It'll be convenient for us to trade then. Thirdly, your little fairy is my reward." End of this chapter. Chapter 441. When the middle-aged man heard that, he was naturally very happy and laughed heartily. Deal. In the future, no matter what kind of dimensional lifeforms flesh you use to exchange for water world dimensional lifeforms flesh, you can do it with me. But if you use alien insect dimensional lifeforms flesh to exchange for water world dimensional lifeforms flesh, the exchange ratio won't be as large as that of abyss dimensional lifeforms. Lin Yuan didn't care. As long as he could exchange for water world dimensional lifeforms flesh, no matter what the ratio was, it was a profit for him. Lin Yuan couldn't help but have the idea of exchanging all the dimensional lifeforms flesh in the leaf-shaped diamond phase storage box with water world dimensional lifeforms flesh. But then, Lin Yuan dispelled this idea. Anyway, he could contact this middle-aged man in the future. Even if he left the Indigo Azure Sea market, there would be opportunities to exchange through ostrich logistics. The flesh of 15,500 gold water world dimensional creatures was enough for Red Thorn to digest and devour for a long period of time. Before Lin Yuan left the middle-aged man's stall, he headed in a different direction from Lu Jia and listened. Along the way, Lin Yuan didn't bid or buy anything again. There were many treasures in this world. In the core area of the Indigo Azure Sea market, even Lin Yuan had to pay a great price to buy many precious spiritual materials and phase. Therefore, as long as he bid, the chips in his hands would decrease. It was very likely that when he encountered phase or spiritual materials that he really needed in the future, he wouldn't be able to take out the capital to bid with others. Lin Yuan saw that in front of many stalls, there were buyers bidding for the same fey and spiritual materials. Even if the value of the spiritual materials taken out by the buyers in the bidding dispute was the same, there would be no difference. However, for the stall owners, there would always be more suitable fays and spiritual materials after weighing the pros and cons. In the end, it was up to the stall owners to decide who they would exchange with. Lin Yuan walked all the way. At that moment, the mother of Bloodbath's strange and pleasant voice was full of urgency. Lin Yuan, there's an extremely rich blood energy ahead. It's huge and pure, and it's very useful to me. Lin Yuan hurriedly followed the mother of Bloodbath's guidance to a stall. He found a young man and a young woman standing in front of this stall. The short-haired young woman was carefully looking at a long crimson vine. Lin Yuan saw many pentagonal leaves growing on the crimson vine. The leaves were dark green in color, but there were many scarlet vein-like veins on the dark green leaves. There was a fracture on the upper branch of the vine, and dark red juice condensed on the surface of the fracture like a coagulated blood scab. Lin Yuan immediately recognized that this vine-like fey was not an ordinary fey. It was a heaven and earth spirit object, the blood brew grapevine. The bloody scab should be from the stall's owner, who had come to the Indigo Azure Sea market to trade for the blood brew grapevine. He had cut a bunch of blood brew grapes from the blood brew grapevine in advance, leaving behind a wound. The short-haired woman in front of the stall was negotiating with the stall owner when she heard the stall owner say, "I will only exchange this blood brew grapevine for 3 items. The first is a heaven fey that is about the same grade as the blood brew grapevine, the second is a bronze/epic fey, and the third is a strategic resource reserve. The 3 broiling fire worker ants you took out might be bronze/epic, but this kind of fire-type fey is useless in Indigo Azure City. If you sell them in other cities, the exclusive skills of these 3 broiling fire worker ants won't be considered outstanding, so don't be unconvinced, young lady. Even if you take out 7 of these broiling fire worker ants, I will hesitate to trade with you, let alone you only took out 3. The stall owner was obviously a little impatient as he spoke. The short-haired woman hesitated for a moment before taking out 3 more source-type items. In a sense, source-type items are also considered strategic reserves. I will add these 3 source-type items to exchange for your blood brew grapevine. The stall owner waved his hand. 3 source-type items are at most equal to 1.5 bronze/epic broiling fire worker ant. Apart from these 3 bronze/epic broiling fire worker ants, take out another 8 source-type items, and I will trade with you. The short-haired woman said with a somewhat ugly expression. I don't have 8 source-type items on hand, only 6. Before the woman could finish speaking, the stall owner rudely interrupted her. I can't be bothered to bargain. The price I'm giving you is already the most fair. If it wasn't for the fact that I really don't want to raise a second bunch of blood brew grapes after raising 1 bunch, I wouldn't trade with you if you took out source-type items. When the man beside the short-haired woman heard the old man's impatient tone, he was obviously a little unhappy. He said to the short-haired woman beside him, Shan Liang, I'll lend you 2 source-type items. How about you exchange this blood brew grapevine first? The short-haired woman named Shan Liang's face darkened as she said to the young man beside her, whose hair was dyed purple. Wei de Bao, I said I'm a green tea and don't like you. You stopped pestering me, but why are you always thinking about giving me a loan? Even if I, Shan Liang, starve to death, I won't let you, Wei de Bao, give me a single cent. Wei de Bao, whose hair was dyed purple, immediately felt a little wronged. Shan Liang, do you have a conscience? I know you're a green tea, but I'm still willing to give you a loan. Isn't that enough to show how much I love you? Shan Liang felt a surge of anger in her stomach. She let out a long burp and said angrily, Shan Liang, do you have a conscience? Consider it my life's misfortune to be in the same class as you, Wei de Bao. You better leave your loan for ghosts to use. Do you think you're the Heaven and Earth Bank? The interest is so huge. Lin Yuan looked at the man and woman in front of him, and for some reason, his mind immediately thought of Xian Ying and Zhang Xiaobai. At the same time, he could feel the mother of Bloodbath's extreme desire for the blood brew grapevine. This was because the mother of Bloodbath had been in a frenzied state ever since it saw the blood brew grapevine. The blood brew grapevine might not be comparable to the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree and twin red pagoda in his spirit lock spatial zone. However, it was comparable to the cinnabar sweet Osmanthus haworthia. Furthermore, the blood brew grapevine and cinnabar Osmanthus haworthia both produced fruits. However, the cinnabar Osmanthus haworthia's fruit function was to enhance spiritual energy. The blood brew grapes produced by the blood brew grapevine could increase the vitality of the target that consumed it. It would also allow the target's blood cells to be abnormally active for a short period of time and produce a large amount of blood. Fourthly, your little fairy is my gamma. End of this chapter. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.